this is probably one of the big obstacles currently in life right now. I mean, I'm about to turn 30. My life feels like a complete disaster, although it's not. I know it's not. It feels like it, but it feels like my life had like a lot of really heated potential. Before I got out of the military, I was like a fucking one-man wrecking crew at one point. I mean, I was singing, dancing, and acting while I was working those crazy shifts at the weather hub. I ran on basically no sleep. I was on some really intense sleeping medication. I was on Ambien for 2 years. And I had this dream that I was going to get into an acting school that would respect me and take me in and give me the experience that I was looking for when I was getting out of the military. And so I used the military as this vehicle, this financial support, this vehicle to support me financially, to give me a little bit more confidence in life with life experience and what I went through and how I felt coming out of it and all the discipline I received. And I think I wasn't always happy with everything the military gave me, but at the end of it, what I really realized I had missed out on, or I didn't have great control over as a civilian before I went in, was how to manage my emotions. I'm an extremely emotional person. I think arguably you would probably call me hypersensitive.
I would absolutely say that about both of us.
Sure. I'm so sensitive, and even as a child, I mean, I was always told by both parents that I'm just too sensitive. I'm just too sensitive, and it's a part of me that, as a boy, as a man, becoming a man, I've had to learn that's really who I am. And the military taught me that there's a way to control it, regardless if I want to or not. If it's not within my ideal choices of what to make in life, when it comes down to the mission or work or goals or a really big decision that needs to be made, the military taught me how to put those emotions away for a second. Think about efficiency. Think about what is the best strategic way to accomplish this goal, and do that. Put your emotions aside for a second and do that. And I think coming out of the military and trying to be an actor again, trying to figure out myself emotionally again, has been an enormous struggle. I find myself being feeling like my emotional volume is turned down now that I've come out. I tend to not, I don't know, I feel so cold all the time. I think that's the best way to put it. I feel isolated, misunderstood. I tend to feel stiff, cold, frustrated. I don't seem to wake up with a recharge of energy. If you plug me in like a phone and I woke up the next day and I was at 100%, that doesn't happen anymore.
I just want to say, everything you're saying sounds really familiar, and you're absolutely not the only person who goes through that. I think that for me, the transition back to being a civilian was way harder than it was to become an airman or whatever. When you first joined, that was really difficult. I actually got diagnosed with adjustment disorder a few months into my first station. They were like, "Oh no, you have a problem." I already knew something's not clicking with me, and they were "You literally have issues with adjusting to new situations." And
Yeah.
that was a difficult, because I was initially kind of angry about it. I thought, I have depression, I have anxiety, I have something, but like when they just like the word adjustment disorder, I had to go like later look it up in like the DSM and like understand what that really means. But I was like, are you just saying I fucking suck at like adjusting? Like, what are you saying? I'm here, I'm fucking doing the work, like all that kind of stuff. But I was also 20 years old and I had a big head and a lot of other things about that. But it's something that I've come to like kind of accept. And I don't like to think about things and like say I have a disorder, you know, because I feel like that sort of gives power to whatever the problem is that you're facing. But I would say that I certainly don't do well with having to quickly adapt to new situations the way that you might ideally have in a soldier, an airman, a marine, you know, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
So that was like you were talking about how it gave you that ability to kind of set your emotions aside and deal with the task at hand. Um, that was definitely something I needed because prior to joining, I was the kind of person who like basically if I had to work 5 days in a row, I was missing one of those days. Like there, I was just so like I would wake up in the morning and be like, I don't fucking care about this. Why am I doing it? And it's because I hated what I was doing. And I hated the situation I was in life. And it was like, I had no motive. Like, what's my motivation to get up and go make $8 an hour or whatever, you know, that kind of thing. But to get back to what you were saying specifically about setting your emotions aside, I almost think the hard transition for me was realizing that I overdid that being in the service. Like I
Mhm.
went so fully into setting my emotions aside that like made I don't know if I forgot. Like I never learned how to be be okay with having emotions. I would just put that aside and bottle it all up and drink it all away. And then it took me years after getting out before I had lots of friends that were super helpful. Like my friend Kai, who was also on the podcast. He's a Navy veteran from the Netherlands actually. And he was in the army prior to the Navy and had served in Iraq and everything. And he was like the most understanding about it. He was just like super like, no, dude, like I get what you're talking about. Like he just like let me speak without telling me how I should feel. And eventually I don't know that I got over it, but I've made a lot of progress in
Mhm.
terms of just being able to like, it's okay to cry. Like I would for the longest time, dude, I would have like these insane panic attacks where I would just be sitting in a room with a lot of other people and they're all laughing and having a great time. And I couldn't figure out like, why am I so fucking angry right now? Like, why is every little thing pissing me off? Like everything someone says, and it's like no one's doing anything wrong. And I just feel like suddenly like alone in a crowded room and I'm having this argument with myself. And then I would burst into tears and like run out of the door. And then like my parents, you know, this is when I had first come back home after leaving the Air Force. And I remember like I was so embarrassed. I didn't want anyone to see me being emotional at all. You know, I've wanted to act like I was like fucking I'm tough and I'm, you know, I have that military bearing and all that shit. And I was so afraid of like if someone sees how much I'm struggling, they're gonna judge me. And my dad was like, dude, we just want to like we don't care that you're upset or that you have these problems or whatever the fuck. We just are confused because you just run out of the fucking door crying like a maniac and then come back and pretend like it's all okay. That we want to help you. We don't want you to be dealing with that by
Yeah.
yourself. And that was such a huge thing too. Was just like all of that voice in your head that tells you everyone's judging me. They all know what you're doing. All this kind of shit is like most people just want you to be normal. like, um, but how's it been? Because I think what I got out in 22, January 22, and it was a little bit longer after that you got out. How was that?
Uh, I got out August 19th of 2023.
Jesus. Okay.
Um, and I had, I think, 70 days of sick leave that I was using to get ready for whatever acting college was going to pick me up.
Uh huh.
So, what was complicated about the whole scenario of August 19th, 2023 was that I auditioned, I think, for about 7 or 8 acting programs all across the US. I went in person as well as online. Went through multiple rounds. To be an actor in college, it's not a typical send in your transcripts and see if you get, send in a transcript and an essay and why you want to go there and see if you get there. For an
Hmm.
actor that wants to be in a bachelor's of fine arts program, not a bachelor of arts, those are two different things. to be in a Bachelor of Fine Arts program at a highly regarded acting college university, you have to audition usually 2 to 3 times before you're accepted, and your pool of people that go to these things is enormous.
Mhm.
So for Juilliard, which is regarded in the entire globe as the top acting school in the entire world,
Is it
they're
bigger
looking.
than the school in Russia, like,
Yeah,
in terms
yeah,
of prestige? Okay,
yeah. Juilliard now is all countries from all over the globe are trying to get into Juilliard.
interesting. Okay.
Of all arts too. It's not just acting. So people from China, they actually just opened a Chinese Juilliard, and that's the only one that's overseas. But any country you can think of that has an extremely highly regarded, talented person applies to Juilliard. So this is the biggest example out of all the 8 schools. When you audition for Juilliard at a program like this, you're you're competing for there's 9 undergraduates and 9 uh, master's students. And so I'm competing 3 to 4,000 people to get these 9 tiny slots
Okay.
of an graduate program. So if you want to be one of the special 9 that gets into the program every year, obviously you have to be whatever it is that they deem what they're looking for, right? So in my head at the time when I was getting out of the military, I was like, okay, I'm going to make myself the most sharpest acting weapon you've ever seen. So I spent a year doing ballroom dancing
Oh,
lessons,
I remember.
like, and I was intense about it. I mean, I was probably ballroom dancing at least like 10 hours a week, getting prepared to be better than the guy next to me.
Mhm.
I took singing lessons, I think twice a month. And they really helped out a lot because I was not a strong singer. That's probably my weakest point of being a performer. Um, and then I took acting lessons from a guy who graduated from Juilliard with Adam Driver in his class. Adam Driver is the actor from.
That's
Uh,
so crazy you just brought up Adam Driver.
yeah, he graduated from Juilliard years and years and years ago. He's now Kylo Ren in Star Wars. He does a bunch of other stuff, but
It might be that you told me this, but I was watching the movie, Marriage Story,
oh man, I've seen
with
that
where
10
he's has that,
times.
scene where he's just, like, in the bar with all of his, students or the people that are in his acting troupe that he runs, and he just has that scene where he just, like, sings, and you can tell, like, dude, Adam Driver is not a singer, but, like, that scene is so intense because it's so emotional, and it's like, even though he's not, like, a magnificent singer, his performance, like, overcomes that.
Yeah,
It might have been you that told me to watch that movie, though.
I think so. A Marriage Story is pretty. I mean, in terms of that realism style, they do it very, very well in that film.
Brutal, dude. Like, every time I've watched it 3 times now, and every time I cry. I swear, like,
I've
it's
seen it
so intense.
probably ten to 20 times. It's a great
Th
movie.
there's
But
the scene where he and his wife are talking in the apartment.
arguing?
He has
Yeah.
this temper tantrum where he, like, punches a hole in the wall, and, it's interesting to watch these things with other people who have different experiences, and they're like, "Whoa, he's such a fucking asshole," and I'm watching
Yeah.
them like, "No, I've been this dude. I have done that."
Yeah.
Almost verbatim,
Actually,
like,
he plays a Marine, an ex-Marine in the movie.
interesting, okay.
Yeah, he gets out of the Marine Corps and, he starts his own theater company in New York City. That's part of the movie.
Okay, okay.
But yeah, coming out of the military at the end, those last I wanna say the last year of it, spending all that time training, and then I also got a really interesting opportunity from people that didn't really like me in the military for a while. I had an uphill battle when I was in. I constantly struggled with my higher ups, and so I just learned how to keep quiet, keep my shit together, keep my nose down. And when it came to work, I worked. I learned how to work hard. I learned how to work accurately, and just not give anyone a reason to fuck with me. So when the time came to me getting out, I was also getting ready for deployment training.
Mhm.
I was getting ready to deploy to Romania just in case I didn't go to acting school. And I knew in my head, Chris, you're turning close to 30, at that time. And I was like, I can't waste any more time not acting. Yes, I'm singing and acting and dancing right now, and it's not enough. I need to be out there with people, with like-minded people. I can't be in the military forever. And it sucked because this opportunity for the deployment, I always wanted to go on a deployment in the military. When I got in,
Mhm.
I thought, like, how cool would it be to have that kind of life experience only 1% of the American population is actually active duty, something crazy. 1%. So for someone to go deploy and experience what it's like to be part of something bigger than you, oh man, like if the opportunity had come even sooner, I would have taken it. Absolutely. If it came into my second or third year of the military, I would have taken it absolutely. But it was complicated because I was juggling trying to get into acting school, trying to get out of the military, and then also considering the deployment because I was getting ready for a deployment. And so my life was fucking crazy. I was the most sleep depraved out of my fucking mind. And I got over it with a fucking white Monster energy drink saying, okay, bitch, like there's caffeine in the fridge. Like the mission is not going to stop because you're whining like, oh, I'm tired. I'm tired. No, man, you get 2 Monster energy drinks and you make it happen. And you have to like there's you it, the work has to be done. Whether you want to, all the fussing and fighting you have, like it must be done. There is a
Yep.
time limit, and if you don't meet it, somebody's going to yell at you. Somebody's going to hurt you, verbally, maybe even physically. They're going to probably make you clean the whole fucking building for like 2 hours with a mop and a broom, and fuck you and leave. Bye. And
I uh I had a hard time because I found myself very quickly working for a rather large video game company, like as a civilian, as a manager. And it took me time to adjust to the fact that I'm not going to treat these people like they signed up for it. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
like that mindset that I had of like the mission must be executed no matter what. I don't care if we have to stay up until 4 a.m. Fucking like something as simple as like asking someone a question and then they start giving you the runaround. And I'd listen to them for a second, and then I'd be like, wait, there are only two answers you can give me. Like it's either yes or I'm gonna figure out how to do it and then I get back to you. And that's the only
yeah,
options you have. And I actually said that to this person, and then I realized like, man, he didn't fucking sign up for that. He doesn't have to do anything I say. Why am I treating people like this? But that's a good point. That mindset gets really ingrained in you for sure.
yeah. And it's hard because you come out of the military and you try to get a regular job
Yep.
and you realize like, man, asking somebody to throw out the trash becomes like a war zone, and all of a sudden it's unfair and unjust that they have to throw away trash. But here you are like, I'll throw fucking 40 bags of trash right now. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
tell me what needs to be done and I'll go do it. Like, it's not that big of a deal.
Yep.
But civilians, dude, I mean, to get them to do anything at the DMV, at the fucking to get your car serviced, anything. People are just so fucking. I don't know what it is. They just have like they they
Rights.
whatever they have rights, but
Dignity.
I don't know. I feel like if
Yeah.
there were
I know
more
what you mean.
places that adopted that kind of mindset of like do anything to get the mission done and then go home, get it over with. You know, I could see why veterans are people that you want to hire because they have that initial drive to make whatever it is happen. Just do it. Like there's no question in your mind. But
Yeah.
going back to the time of getting out, I had gotten accepted. Man, it was such a ball crusher because I really, 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 really wanted to get into Juilliard. It was my second time applying. And dude, all of that training that I did help. It didn't get me very far, but it did help. And I was singing, dancing, and acting and crying all at my Juilliard audition. I gave everything, my 200%. I gave everything I had. And when I got the no, I mean, I walked my cold, sorry ass back to my hotel in New York City, and I was like, "All right, well, that one's not gonna happen." And I found myself flying to Los Angeles. I was in the very final rounds of being at USC,
Mm.
University of Southern California. I tried out at UNCSA, which I didn't feel like that program was for me. It was too odd, too artsy, too left, weird. Uh, and then I found myself getting accepted into a program like NYU. Unfortunately, it was $90,000 on top of me using my GI Bill. So I was like, I'm not paying $90,000 on a loan to go to college for acting. I think that's fucking crazy. And people do
Insane.
it. People
Yeah.
do it actually. That's why that program exists, is because people, even with my, assistance, people are paying over $150,000+ to be an actor at NYU.
And they're either in crippling debt on a potential, like realistically, like the return on investment is most likely very low,
Oh, it's
or
horrible.
they have
Yeah.
someone in their life who's financing that for them, and then they
It's
don't,
fucking crazy.
in many
Yeah.
cases, like, don't appreciate what it is that they have because they're not.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I was
Yeah.
like, okay, well, I mean, my top choices were just unrealistic. And then I
Right.
didn't get into USC at the end. So I was like, okay, what places did I get into? I got into UNCSA. Not for me, I can tell. They gave me a lot of cool opportunities. They gave me an opportunity to be either a director or an actor. And they had a lot of promising articles that said, "Oh, this is one of the top programs in the U.S." But I was like, you know what, this place is not for me. And I got accepted into another program called Rutgers University. And when I go on the website, when I meet the people in person, they're claiming that we offer, a traditional training style that's focused in Shakespeare and the Meisner technique, but it's by under Bill Esper's version of the Meisner technique. And Bill Esper is, quote unquote, the right hand man of Meisner. And they sell you this and say, like, oh, it's Meisner. It's Meisner.
Mhm.
So in my head, being a Meisner actor, having 5 years of Meisner training changed my whole life. It's one of the biggest driving factors in me wanting to be an actor. I'm deeply passionate and very well versed in Meisner. It would be a mistake to tell me that I don't know what Meisner is. I promise you that.
Thank you for listening to In the Keep. Please consider taking a moment to leave a review, comment, a like, and subscribe on your listening platform of choice. It really helps, and it's greatly appreciated. If you really love the show and want to see it grow, consider supporting us via Patreon. Supporters get episodes early, exclusive content and updates, chances to ask questions to guests, access to In the Keep's video games, and whatever else I can do for you. Every little bit helps. This podcast directly supports my ability to do what I love the most and to take care of my growing family. You can find links to everything that I'm talking about here over at inthekeep.com. Thank you, bless you, and enjoy the show.
When I get to this program, which I decided on this program called Rutgers University. It was at New Brunswick, New Jersey. When I got there, I noticed things got weird. And I got out of the military. I wasn't even technically out of the military when I started college. I got out so fast and so soon that I was actually in college, like, I think maybe 2 weeks after I got out of the military, actually. That's about what happened.
I
So
had
I had no.
overlap as well for like several months because I did that skill bridge program. So it
Yeah.
was like I'm still in the military legally and getting paid by the military, but I'm already working for another company kind of thing.
What Yeah, and when I come to this program, I'm realizing, like, oh shit, like, what happened to my emotions? What happened to me? Who am I? You know, what am I anymore? And I'm I'm in a program where it's not a typical college program. You're stuck with 18 of the same classmates every single day. and you're in class from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. 5 days a week.
Okay.
And between classes and after classes, I was working at the Veterans Center on campus. And so my life was basically from 5 a.m. I worked out, and I instilled. I was like, okay, I don't have any time to work out. There's I have a job at the Veterans Center. I have college. I have homework. I have lines. I have projects. I have all these things to do. There's absolutely no way I could work out after 8 or 9 p.m. when the uh, Veterans Building closes after my shift of work.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, I'm not going to stop working out because fitness is my second passion in life. Acting and fitness are both my passions in life. So I said, fuck it. I'm going to, no matter what, no matter how bad I sleep, no matter how bad I feel, I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. and I'm going to go train. I'm going to train as hard as I fucking can, get loaded up on anywhere between 100 to 400 milligrams of caffeine. I'm going to make it fucking happen. I'm going to make it fucking happen. I'm going to look fantastic on stage. I'm going to look fucking great. I'm going to feel great. I'm going to be the baddest motherfucker you've ever seen in your life. And this program, it ended up being so infuriating and so humiliating and so wrong. I mean, these teachers that I had that claimed they were Meisner teachers, they were changing the sayings of Meisner. They were acting like the old traditional sayings of that came out of Meisner's fucking mouth all of a sudden can be changed just because he's dead now. And the Espers guy's dead now. And so these new people are taking it over, gutting it out, and then putting in whatever the fuck they want to put in there and claiming this is Meisner. And when I saw this happen, I questioned everything. I was like, why? Why are you doing this to one of the most cherished and beloved versions of this technique, this acting technique? I was so angry.
Right.
And so confused and so and at the time I kept my emotions down. I asked these questions at a very level-headed position, and I was like, okay, what is going on? Why is this happening? Let's get it to a logical and ethical point here. What do I need to understand in order to be successful at this place? And these teachers started telling me that I had toxic masculinity because I was in the military. And they told me that I was a cis white male that can't understand accountability. Yet I'm not even fucking white. Yeah, my skin is light. I have
That was
light
my
skin.
favorite
But
thing about this whole thing when you were
I'm
telling
actually
me, like,
Hispanic. I'm Latino.
yeah, that
My
was my
last
favorite
name
thing.
my last name is Guerrero. If you looked at a fucking paper every once in a while, you'd see that I'm Hispanic instead of just looking at a bald, light-skinned Mexican guy. That's what I am, actually. And I realized that coming to this acting program that I got accepted into, that was extremely hard to get into. There's thousands of people applying for this program that want to learn Shakespeare and Meisner and go to London for a year, and you're promised all this extensive training and this fantastic experience of learning what it's like to do theater with traditional, whatever. And I realized it was all a lie.
Mhm.
And I found myself conflicted because I left the military, which offered me an enormous amount of benefits for my sacrifices. It offered me, um, although it took away my freedoms, my personal freedoms, it also gave me a lot of financial freedom and a lot of freedom to say, this is where I want to go, this is what I want to do, and this is how I want to spend my money. And also the street cred too. I mean, being in the military, you feel like I felt like I I was able to see and do things that a normal person would never be able to do. If you asked me if if you asked me before the military if I'd ever be a meteorologist making weather reports for a U-2 spy plane, I'd think you were out of your fucking mind. I would
I
look at you being like, that's never going to happen.
I would have told you were crazy just for thinking I would join the military. Like, I was like, that's in my try to talk me out of it because they were like, this is not you.
Yeah.
Like, this is not who you are. Like, not because it's like they didn't want me to do it, but they were like, everything about your personality is the antithesis of someone who would do this. And then at the time, I was like, it's this choice I got to make right now, and I have to do this for myself.
When
So,
I was at Rutgers and things were just going south, there were a few instances that shocked me, and I couldn't believe that this is what college in America was like, or especially actors. I thought going to a very focused program like this meant you're acting day in, day out. I thought that's what this was, what I signed up for.
right.
I thought I signed up for Meisner, day in, day out, 24/7, rigorous training. Let's get you ready. When I got to this place, I was dealing with people that were just making shit up, and they were judging me, and they were claiming they already knew who I was. They don't even know who I am at all. They think I'm this cis white male that can't understand accountability and this toxic. I've never been called these things before in my life. And one day there was one moment where I was like, okay, my military background kicked in, and I was like, this person needs to be accountable for their actions. If I was this person's supervisor or I was watching over this person, I would be writing down every single little thing that I see myself and you having a problem with. I logged it in, and I started going, bam, like on this date at this time at this place, this happened. So and so is here, so and so is here, so and so is here, and I saw all of these negative things occurring. That's what happened. Um, and one day, the acting teacher, started claiming that I was this cis white male that couldn't understand accountability. Started talking about like Jewish oppression, how black people are wrongly accused. She accused two black guys of sexually harassing girls in the class or something, and she had no proof. She put them on blast and started claiming that they were going to get kicked out of the college because there's a zero tolerance policy for this. She started making all of the males apologize for things. I apologize for making a joke about benching 225 pounds, which is that joke is light. I said, oh, well, I bet you can't bench 225. I apologized for that. And I was like, whatever. People are sensitive. Maybe I'm just in the military. I don't understand. I'm going to apologize for it. Whatever. I sat there and I listened to students that are 18 to 22, arguing and yelling and screaming and accusing each other of being sexually harassing, uh, of not respecting feminism, fat people rights, Jewish oppression, uh, fat people don't get roles in movies, black people don't get the
What?
same amount of time on screen, black people don't,
What about like
this and that.
Chris Farley and Jack Black and
I don't know.
all the
I'm reiterating exactly what I saw and what happened. And I sat there and I thought to myself, okay, something's not right. Something is not good. I'm seeing these three black guys in my class. They're all like 17, 18 years old.
Mm.
They are so alarmed and shocked by the whole experience that they're crying. They're hugging each other in the bathroom. They're frustrated. They're angry. And I'm looking at these guys who feel like they're singled out, and they're crying and they're hugging each other in the bathroom. I'm like, who else would say something? Who else in this entire room of 18 to 22-year-old kids, and then me there who's like 28, 29 years old?
Yep.
I look at it and I'm like, I know for a fact the teacher's wrong. I know it. Something is wrong because this scenario happened for like a week and a half. And different kinds of these scenarios kept occurring.
And meanwhile, like not teaching the curriculum.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, we were not learning acting at all.
Yeah. Okay.
At
Maybe
all.
she was acting. Maybe that's what
It
it
was
was.
it was people
Right.
pointing fingers at each other's, being extremely left-winged. I would say to the farthest point of left-wing ideology.
Yeah.
And I came here to act. I didn't come here to be a part of politics, but I decided, okay, what is the right thing to do? And what is the if I have to be here and I have to succeed here, what is the right thing to do? And also take care of the other guys that I see are crying in the bathroom and losing their fucking minds in this place, because I'm losing my mind too. I can't do this anymore. So I started from the bottom of the chain. I went to my advisor,
Mhm.
just an academic advisor, a person that would sign you up for classes. I went to the head of the program. I went to the chair of the program. I went to the deans of the program, multiple deans. I think I talked to 3 or 4 deans. And I was showing them a document that I created that entailed all of the things that I was concerned about: dates, times, where it happened, who was there, what's going to go on. I battled with this teacher, 2 teachers actually, that claimed that I was this un unteachable. They claimed I was unteachable, that I had for whatever reason, I could not let go. I couldn't understand the curriculum. I couldn't do this. I couldn't do that. I was a poor actor. I had horrible acting skills. He shouldn't be an actor. And yet, they were saying all these things because I was revealing the truth about them. And when I started revealing more of the truth to the higher ups, they started to say, "Hey, this is not the first time we've heard this before. Thank you for coming out and telling us." By the end of my first semester there, or I think it was my second semester at Rutgers. I did a fall and a spring semester,
Mhm.
so about a year. Um, it was by the end of that semester, they just let me go with no warning. So I didn't have a chance to prepare or get ready. I didn't. It wasn't a 2 weeks notice. It wasn't like I knew that I was getting kicked out. It was after that I had started making complaints and starting to look for help through Title IX and other university services that the university cut me from the program for artistic dismissal,
What does
because I
that even
wasn't. It means that artistically, I did not grasp the techniques that were given to me.
but
The
they weren't
tests that
giving
I
you any
failed,
techniques. They were
yeah, the tests that I failed were performance based. So they're not written exams. They're not questions that you answer with multiple choice or an essay. I got failed because these teachers decided that I was unfit as an actor for the program. But I believe that it was because I complained about the enormous problems that were going on with this program and how they were especially treating males of the program. So I got kicked out. My confidence destroyed itself in the process. I looked at New York City constantly because I was always being so close to New York from New Jersey. I was constantly in New York, just watching shows, wanting
Mhm.
to be there in the place that I've always wanted to be. And I just felt like I was lied to. Here I was in the military working my ass off to be in a program like this, and it ended up being you ever see that movie, the newest Mad Max Furiosa?
I actually have not seen Furiosa yet. I've only seen up to the
Well,
I guess it's the
I won't
4th movie in the
I won't
row.
spoil it,
Yeah.
but it just feels like, it feels like after the military, I finally earned my paradise, like, "Oh, this is the place where I've always wanted to be." And then I get there and it's a fucking barren wasteland. It's just nothing. It's
I
just
think
sand.
that's a very you had a particularly problematic experience, right? But
It was horrible, yeah.
in general, like, when you hype something up in your head, like, this is my goal," and then you get there and you realize it's not all it was made out to be, like, that's the
Yeah.
grass is always the grass is never greener on the other side kinda thing. Um, I had a very like, I did not have all this, people attacking me thing, but I did have that experience of, like, I went to Europe, I had you from the day you met me, I'd been talking about this, like, "This is what I
Yeah.
wanna do," and
Everywhere.
then I had exactly the job that my dream job. I had an apartment to myself that was, like, better than anything I'd ever lived in before, I was, like I had more money than I knew what to do with, and I was more depressed than I think I'd ever been. you know. Um, and there was so many factors in that, like that was like being away from home, family, being alone, and I would say Scandinavia is not a good place to be a person who needs a strong social circle if you want to just move there by yourself, because that's not their culture, which is not something I could have. People told me this, but I was like, "Oh, I'll be fine." I like to sit inside, but it's like I immediately like the winter time where no one goes outside, no one does anything. Like I couldn't handle that. But and it's not to criticize the experience of being in Scandinavia. It's a beautiful place, but I had built it up in my mind that like my life is going to be perfect when I do this, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
It was what I really had was time to confront all my demons by myself. And when you were saying earlier, like, who am I? What am I? Like that. Like I was having those conversations with myself in a bottle of wine every day for months. Just I had a whiteboard. I still have it, where I would just write my thoughts down. And sometimes I would just like take a picture and tweet it with no context. Just like, what are people making this? Because I was so like desperate to like understand, the question, who am I? What am I? What is this? Why
Yeah.
did why did I think this would be so perfect and that yet I'm still miserable? And I had so much internal guilt, where I was like telling myself, like, you should be grateful. You know how many fucking people will never have the opportunities that you have, that how many people like what you make in a month most people couldn't make in 6 years of their life. People that I grew up around who've never been outside of the county, you know and here I am making video games for fucking a living in a fucking paradise utopia country, and I'm complaining. What's wrong with me? But the truth is that it's all inside of you, I think. It's what you make of it. Or at least that's as far as I've gotten. But it's so crazy, like the parallels, because I totally agree with you, like that the experience of thinking that this is the ultimate goal and then realizing that it's like the fucking biblical story, like get into Jerusalem, and that they think, okay, we escaped Pharaoh, and then they have 40 fucking years in the desert walking around with their dicks in their hands while, and then Moses dies and then Joshua has to keep going. And then they get to Jerusalem and it's like, oh, wait, this is the promised land, but it's a city called Jericho. And like, then they have to fight a war and knock the walls down with the trumpets of angels and shit. And then after they live there for a long time, then motherfuckers come and steal the Ark of the Covenant and decimate everybody and scatter them about the world. It's like, that's just like a pattern in life, dude. There's no promised land.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
god damn, does it hurt when
Yeah.
you find out it's not.
Yeah.
It hurts so bad. I mean, it still
Crippling.
hurts today.
Sounds like it really hurt for you, dude. Like your experience
Yeah.
is uniquely
Well,
discouraging,
I
I
mean,
think.
it was a multitude because I you can't see me on video, but I recently lost my hair too, even when I got out of the military. So I was also trying to accept myself with the way I look at that point. Like I went from being what I felt like was a very handsome guy with hair. And then when I lost my hair, um I also I started getting less attention from women. Um it wasn't the same attention that I was used to with hair. So that was a transition, being able to accept myself, looking in the mirror, saying like, "This is what I look like. This is what I'm going to go out in public looking like." And I think for a lot of men, I'm more comfortable with it now. Thank God.
Mhm.
I'm actually considering a hair transplant still, but for now, I just shave my head. I just buzz my head and call it a day. But at the
Bro
time,
Jogan got one of those. He had the hair transplant back
well,
when he was
it's
on.
different. He got an FUT. Now it's
It's
FUE.
like where
It's
they
a
like
different process.
cut a strip of skin off the back of your head and like put it on the
Yeah,
front kind of
it's
thing.
not like
And
that anymore.
yeah,
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 now
that was just
it's all
interesting. Yeah.
a singular process. You actually pick out hair follicles on the side or back of your head uh, as themselves. You don't do strips anymore. Just the single process of plucking it out and putting it on top of your head.
Mhm.
So it's different now. There's a lot less scarring. It's a lot less noticeable. It's very different. But I'm still considering a hair transplant. But when I got out of the military at that time, August 19th, 2023, into my first year of college, being bald was it was weird because I came out into the civilian world being bald, as a new looking person, and in the military, shaving your head, being bald, like, that's very common. Like, it wouldn't be weird to see one of your homies that you've seen all your life have hair, and then one day he just shaves his head and says, "This is what I'm doing." There's a lot of guys just do that.
Yeah.
Um, in the civilian world, it got kind of, hurtful as a sensitive guy. You know, I had people asking me like, "Aren't you gonna do something about it? Um, are you bald? Like, why don't you do something about it? It doesn't look good. You would look so much younger if you had hair." And,
I feel like
I thought it
acting people there too are extraordinarily superficial because it's like
extremely
you
superficial.
make money on the way you look in a lot of
Yeah.
cases. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was around these young people that just they had no idea what I had just gone through or what I had seen or what I had heard, and when I
Yeah.
would try to talk to them about it, they couldn't comprehend. I mean, today's young generation between 18 to 22 is in love with TikTok trends and whatever's the hottest topic now, right now, and I don't think anybody really had to care about what a bald, washed up, late 20s military guy had to say. It was,
Can we sidebar on that for a second? Because I have theories about this. I actually am I'm working to try to get a like if I can find a teacher who was active. Hey, if you're listening and I haven't already done it by the time you hear this, or even then, and you're interested, reach out inthekeep.com, something like that. So I'm looking for a teacher who was active from like as early or maybe before 2013 to now. Public school in America, preferably somewhere where there's like a large student base. Because on one hand, everything that you just said is sort of true of all young people, like where they're just, have a lot of life experience. They have values that aren't really fully formed yet. And I mean, I'm 29, so I'm not like some fucking old dude saying this. But like, if you talk to someone who's 22 now, and they're not like just the average person, and you ask them very simple educational questions that I think you and I and everyone that I've ever known in my life would just be like, of course you would know that. They have no fucking idea. Like if I said like who was the president during the American Civil War? And they can't answer that question. And I'm like, wait, you genuinely don't know that? Like, why would I know that? Like who needs to know anything that happened in history like before I was born? Like it's not important. And I'm like, wait, how did you come to that conclusion? Like who taught you that? I'm like, what did you learn in school? And I've like even like, my wife is younger too, and I was like, just tell me about what was the seventh grade like? Like what books did you read in the seventh grade? And it's not anyone's fault. It's just like, what was the education system like? Because I wasn't there. And I think a lot of parents have been complaining about this. And my brother is a school teacher. I talked to him a bit. I don't think I'll get him on the record. But like critical thinking in and of itself seems to have just not been part of the education system since like 2015. I want to, I don't know, I'm not an expert. I want to align it with around the time that I think it was involved. Bill Gates was involved with this. There's this huge push for a nationwide STEM program, right? So like they wanted all of the nation's schools to be sort of like regulated on one uh, agreed upon, like this is what we're teaching math in this grade, et cetera, and across the board. And they wanted to focus on STEM, like science, math, engineering, that kind of stuff, technology. And I feel like I don't know if that even really improved, but what I do know is that it seems like a lot of other things got left by the wayside. Even my younger brother, who's 23 now, so he would have gone through high school a few years after me, which is when this stuff started being implemented. And even he has very not a criticism, Trent. I love you because he's a smart kid or a young man now. He's a father of two, so I can't call him a kid anymore. But even he really struggles with like he'll fall for like the stupidest conspiracy theory. People are like talking about fucking flat earth shit or whatever. And I'm like, okay, I'm not telling you that there's no flat earth. But what I'm asking you is, can you explain to me why you think that? And then you get like 4 or 5 questions in and they fall apart. And they instead of like, either coming to the conclusion like, I guess I don't know, or saying like, or even just saying like, oh, that's just what I think and that's that. Or I don't want to argue with you. They'll like get distracted and then move on to something else. And like ADHD has become so prevalent. I'm not saying ADHD doesn't exist, but I think a lot of people who are diagnosed with ADHD, in fact, are just not very disciplined to pay attention. I think South Park has been talking about this forever and a lot of other people. I'm not the first person to have this idea. But it's very interesting. So like you were pretty much a almost 30-year-old guy in a classroom full of people who are about that age. And like, can you give any commentary on like what your
Yeah.
experience was with that?
Yeah, I found it to be extremely hard for me to connect with them.
Uh-huh.
For certain acting classes, I needed to walk around a room and be loose. So you loosen your body, you're breathing, there's techniques going on, you're making weird noises, you're making
Mhm.
weird faces, you're gurning. Gurning is a very weird looking thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you also need to be making eye contact with the other 17 people in your class and acknowledging their presence, being in the same space as them. So you look them in the eye while you're gurning and you getting loose and getting weird with your body and being free to feel as loose as you can in these exercises. And I noticed, oh my God, for whatever reason, the females in my class, I would say 90% of them just refused to make eye contact with me. And it made me feel uncomfortable because it's like, why do you feel like you can't make eye contact with me? Is it because I'm older? You haven't had a lot of experience being around a person my age before? Is it because I don't know, intimidating or alarming to you that you won't make eye contact with me? Because that's
Mhm.
what the program is requesting, make eye contact with me. And so I ask myself, after a whole year of that, where it's like I can't connect with these women 18 to 20, 22, uh, what do I need to do to make it a more comfortable environment for them around me? Right. So, I mean, that was a struggle. I've never heard of fat people rights. And even if I wanted to make a statement or a comment about that specific topic, I feel like as soon as I open my mouth, I'm going to be an enormous target for someone who's a bigot, who's, uh, I don't know, against feminism for some reason. Masculinity in theater in that college program, it's something so far left. Masculinity, anything masculine whatsoever, is always looked at as toxic. Even when we read plays or I do a performance for you, I did a performance of Macbeth at the college.
Very masculine play.
Well, it's just a
A lot of killing.
it's a very violent play. Um, but Lady Macbeth is arguably more of the protagonist than Macbeth is in this play.
Mm.
But I did a performance for the psychology department at Rutgers, and they were supposed to evaluate mental health conditions within the play. And even after which these people that I performed for, they're not necessarily theater people. They're psychology people, right? They're doctors, they're practicing people, they're people getting their masters. But you know what I found was odd in this college setting is that no one really focused on the mental health issue or the what it was set out to do, what the performance was set out to do. It was set out to examine and analyze the mental health issues that these characters had within the play. Instead, they went straight to saying, "Oh, like this play doesn't even need Macbeth. Lady Macbeth is like the real star of the show.
Mhm.
Forget the male Macbeth. What is he even in the play for? Go women in power. Women deserve everything and on all this." And I sat there as the male actor, like, listening to this and thinking, like, wasn't the whole performance supposed to be about mental health and examining, like, mental health within the 1600s and then, bringing up, like, what that might have looked like back then to now? Instead, we're just arguing that men are trash and that masculinity is trash and that women are in power, and it made me so frustrated because here I was acting my fucking heart and soul out for these people, trying to give the most honest performance I could, and all they cared about was feminism and how much they hate men, and I was like, "Okay, maybe I could fake it till you make it and just work as hard as I can and let them just say whatever they want, because here I am acting, like, all I wanna do is act." But it's just like every point, every corner, every room that I turned to, it was always something to something to just put me down, and I realized this place is just not for me, and I got kicked out of the program, and,
Did they give you like a like I know that you said it was like performance based, like kind of like you're not a
yeah.
they were saying you can't be taught to act or some shit like that. But did anyone like sidebar with you and be like, look, this is kind of the deal. Like in the military, right? If you got paperwork about some bullshit, that was
Yeah.
like, that like somebody would usually your supervisor would be like, look, this is dumb as fuck, but it's like we gotta basically show that we meant reprimanded somebody, you're the one that's taking the fall. Sorry, At least so that you're not crazy.
I had no warning. I had no nothing. It was like an end of semester evaluation, just to it was gonna be all my teachers giving comments about, like, what I needed to work on, and then, the next season, where are we gonna be at with the shows and the program and, like, what we're expecting of you and blah, blah, blah. As far as I'm aware, I'm the only guy that got kicked out because I complained and I had issues with the teachers, 2 teachers, and, um, no warning, no nothing. I just showed up to this evaluation and I was kicked out immediately. And you know what's really ironic is, there was this play I was working on the entire year. It was called Iron Will, and it was an adaptation of H.P. Lovecraft's The Temple,
Right.
and it was supposed to be, uh, a very I was gonna adapt it to be a masculine kind of answer to what I was experiencing in college, and what's funny is I was gonna share it. I had 4 copies of it. I was gonna share it with everybody at the evaluation meeting, and I was gonna be like, "This is what I'm working on. This summer, I wanna finish this play, and I wanna show you how serious I am about acting, and I really wanna be here, and I wanna be a part of this program, and I wanna work as hard as I can." And you know what's funny? They stopped me in my tracks, as hopeful as I was, and they just shot the dog. They shot old Yeller and said, "Hey, man, this isn't working out. I'm gonna have to let you go. Um, thank you for being part of this program. I'm sorry to let you know that we're gonna dismiss you for an artistic dismissal." And my military background kicked in. I put my emotions aside, and I could have thrown chairs. I could have yelled at people. I could have said a bunch of really crazy shit.
Mhm.
But you know what I said, man? I said, "Very well, thank you. Have a nice day," and I left.
You're a lot more
And I
disciplined
felt
than I think I am because I
and I
have
felt like I would have destroyed that entire room if I could. If I let my
that's your toxic masculinity
oh,
showing. Right?
if
Yeah.
I let my instincts really take over and show you what I felt emotionally, I mean, I would have acted in a completely different way. But I knew as a professional, as a person that wants to be respected, I have to walk out of there in a respectful way. So I just walked out of there with my emotions tucked into my belly, and went home. And since that day, I don't know, man. I've been extremely depressed. Um, I've been angry at myself for the decisions I've made, and trying to figure out, is this even my dream anymore? Is this who I am anymore? What are all I listen to a lot of Jordan Peterson, Dr. Huberman, Joe Rogan. I listen to all comedians. I listen to doctors, psychiatrists, whatever you may think. And I spend so many hours of my days today trying to figure out, like, well, what do these people recommend? How do you restart your life? How do you get it back together? How do I lost my way. My sleep is horrible. My depression's insane.
Mhm.
And I'm asking myself, am I even an actor anymore? You know, am I even what's important to me? What are my passions in life? Is this still meaningful to me? And so I'm still poking at these questions like a kid at the beach with a stick, and he's poking at the jellyfish, the dead jellyfish on the ground, like, do something. What's going to happen if I poke this jellyfish? And I don't know. It's an existential crisis.
Whatever happened to the good old days when computer role playing games spent more time telling great stories than stressing you out with season passes and needless grinding? Call of Ragnar is our effort to bring back the best in RPGs. Play in the immersive world as two friends adventure into a murder mystery that lands them in the middle of a battle between gods. Head over to callofseregnar.com. That's call of SAREGNAR.com for more info. Be sure to wishlist on Steam. So, first question that comes to mind is, did anyone at any point in this process tell you what they mean by toxic masculinity, or was it just like a list of everything? Is it like anything you do is, or did they say like, did anyone be like, this is the definition, this is how it's diagnosed, whatever?
I was in the program for a couple of months, and the teacher was saying really hurtful things, like how my previous Meisner teacher was not a real fucking acting teacher. And I don't care if this person meant anything to you. She's not a real fucking acting teacher. Get over it. This is the real Meisner technique. And that's the point where I started doing a lot of investigating. I was like, is this person right? Is this person wrong? Let's take a step back and ask myself, was this person who I regarded as one of the most um, beloved and special people in my life, were they really a fake? And it was hard. It was a hard pill for me to swallow if it was true. But I knew that I had to do some digging. So the teacher told me, read Bill Esper's book, read Meisner's book. I read both books, desperately trying to look for an answer to this. And I found that neither of them were right, but this technique that I was learning from this teacher was extremely manipulated. It was not Meisner by any means of the word. It was not the Meisner technique. It was something different. And when I started to argue with the teacher about the changes, like in Meisner, you're supposed to do repetition. When you look at another person, you you repeat what you see in their behavior, and you learn how to read behavior from the micro movements within the face, and you pick up things that people do. They don't even realize they're doing it. They do it instinctually. They do it as their DNA code. This is what I do when I'm uncomfortable. This is what I do when I'm angry. This is what I do when I'm sad. And after reading behavior for many, many years, you read so many people from the age of 16 to 80 years old. I'm reading behavior day in, day out, 5 years, repetition. This skill set that I learned is all of a sudden told to me that this is not acting. This is not the real way. This is not how it's supposed to be done. I had questions. I was like, "There's no way. This changed my life. This specific technique changed my life. I need to know, why do you feel this way? Why did you
Mm.
change these things? Why did this happen?" And when I started questioning the teacher, that's when I got called toxic masculinity. Was because I was asking all of these questions that seemed to offend the teacher. It offended the teacher that I was
Assertive.
questioning. Well, I wasn't being assertive. I was genuinely curious. I was like,
Yeah.
"Why did this change? Why did you decide to change this or do this way?" And I never got real answers. It was always, pointing fingers telling me that I'm wrong, my history is wrong, what I learned was wrong, my entire mindset is wrong, and they're gonna fix me. The military fucked me up, they're gonna fix me. My previous acting teacher fucked me up, they're gonna fix me. But I looked back at my time, excuse me, with my Meisner teacher of 5 years in Austin, Texas, and I knew after talking with my acting teacher personally and talking to other people personally that my technique was true. It was right. I was in the right. I wasn't acting like a crazy person, and I had questions, and when I kept asking and digging for more answers, it became problematic for this teacher, and she became extremely hostile towards me to the point where we couldn't even have words together. I was on a nonverbal agreement with a college professor, so I wasn't allowed to talk to this person, acknowledge this person. I would show up to class, act in front of this person, and then I would get a verbal document in my email saying what I did wrong. This person even claimed that I was using unethical and immoral acting techniques in order to get to emotional places that
What? What does that
yeah.
mean?
So I did a scene in class where I was supposed to sing at my father's funeral after he had been mugged and shot and killed, right? And I made up this entire scene myself. Now, given my history, my actual real biological father, he died in a car accident when I was 13. I watched the whole process. I had PTSD growing up as a kid. It's probably a story for another time. Um, and so my teacher knew that going in, and I did this scene in the acting class where I acted like Bruce Wayne from Batman.
Mm.
And in my eyes, my father, who was a completely different person I imagined, uh, was mugged, shot, killed, and I was going to sing a song that was very meaningful to me at his funeral. The song was "Patience" by George Michael. And
Very, very toxic masculine guy, George
and
Michael.
when I sang this song, "Patience" by George Michael, and I started really letting the tears flow and letting myself be truthful, in the moment, allowing myself to just be with the moment. This is what it feels like. I really hit it hard. I hit it hard as fuck. I mean,
Wow.
the tears were running. I felt like my father really was shot and mugged, and it was a completely different guy, by the way, not my real father. The whole point of the Meisner technique is to use your imagination under use your imagination truthfully under imaginary circumstances. And so there I was going all out. And the teacher claimed that I was using unethical and harmful techniques to get there.
But
She has no idea. She
what
just
was
guessed.
unethical and harm like, let's just
She
say that
guessed.
she could
She
read
guessed.
your mind.
Yeah, she guessed that my techniques, what I was doing was I was using memories of my actual biological father dying in the car accident and using that in my acting exercise. She guessed it.
But
She just said, "This is."
let's just say you were, right? How is that unethical or harmful?
Because when you do that as an actor and you do it over and over again, you're hurting your psyche. If I was to imagine if I was to really relive my father dying in the car accident over and over again, it's very harmful to a person's psyche because you're reliving that painful memory over and over again and hurting yourself in order to get that emotion out of you. Meisner teaches you how to use your imagination so you don't have to pull from your memories. You're doing it imaginary. So you can go back home and it never really happened. Your dog didn't really get shot and like its arm isn't broken and it's squealing on the floor crying. It didn't really happen. So it's okay. So Meisner developed this technique where you're using your imagination instead of your memories to develop that kind of acting style that to give you something more than your memories. There is acting teachers that they do practice your memories. They do that. That is a real thing. People do that. But she claimed, she assumed, and she judged that I did use memories. And I took extreme offense to that because I haven't used my memories in years. That's why I love the Meisner technique, is because it helped me not use my memories. Um, but I that was another, her doing that to me and then sending me to my chair and my dean and whoever, claiming that I was using memories without any proof. You can't read my mind. I took that very offensively.
Let's okay. So I'm imagining in this scenario where like everything is about like not hurting anybody's feelings and being all polite and you know woke and all this kind of stuff, right? That let's say you had been a lady and done a similar, exactly the same scene, right, about your father or your imaginary dad who's been shot, whatever the fuck, and you did in fact remember that this thing that really happened to you, and that's some inspiration for the scene. Okay, do you think that the same like would the teacher have said the same thing like no you're not allowed to do that, or was this just targeted at like basically it sounds like she just kind of hates men. Sounds like I don't know,
I'll never
probably her
know.
dad didn't like her very much, or she didn't like her dad or something. She
I'll
hates
never
men.
know. We had one student who I won't name.
Mhm.
She was in a thong and a extremely thin bikini. This girl was 18 years old and she was acting like a what look I don't know. I don't know the context because they don't give you the context. You just watch. But it looked like she was a hooker somewhere. She had a razor in her hand and she was rubbing it all over her body and she was crying.
Mhm.
And then somebody comes to the door and knocks on the door, knock, knock, knock. And she's freaking out and crying and having a panic attack and puts a jacket on herself and opens the door. What are you doing here? What are you doing here? I don't know. I don't know. Now, that doesn't sound so crazy over podcast, but why is it crazy to me as a 29-year-old man at the time? It's crazy because I'm scared to look at an 18-year-old girl who's in a thong and then all of a sudden I looked at her wrong. I I looked at her lustfully, and all of a sudden, I'm claimed as this sexual predator that is looking at this young woman on stage doing this thing. It's it made me uncomfortable. You know what I mean? And I complained about it. I was like, the reason I'm not watching this performance is because I everything, every little thing that I do at this program is microscoped. It's like somebody's got a microscope and they're analyzing me every second, every moment of the day to complain about me for something.
Mhm.
Something. And I just felt like I was walking on eggshells at every single room, every single hallway that I was in. Everything I did was wrong. From my acting performances to the way I felt about how the class was going to my conversations with the professors. I mean, everything. It was horrible. And I came out of the military thinking this was everything I ever could have hoped for and wished for. And then I got there and it felt more restricted and more like a prison than I ever thought it would be. And it didn't help that even in my personal life, as a regular, like outside of the acting program, when I would go out to bars and clubs as a new civilian, dude, I got jumped at a club and I got beaten up by 5 guys at a club in New Jersey for doing nothing. I didn't hurt any. I didn't look for trouble. I got jumped by 5 men beating the fuck out of me and my 2 other friends for nothing. I didn't do anything.
Did they take your wallet?
They smashed my body into the floor and I got glass all over my right arm. But
But like there was like no like they weren't taking anything. They were just
no,
basically wanted to beat some people up.
they just hurt me. The whole experience of me going to college in New Jersey was traumatizing. I mean, it was awful. It was depressing. It was frustrating. It made me question my whole life. I mean, here I thought coming out of the military, this is what I earned. This is what I deserved. You know, I fought for this. And then I get there and it's a fucking it's like Furiosa, like Mad Max Furiosa. I get to this promised land and it's all just fucking sand and depression for me. And
But
I get kicked out and I end up moving to Charleston, South Carolina, where one of my best friends lives. And I'm just trying to put the pieces back together now. I'm trying to ask myself, am I still an actor? Can I still do this? This my whole life's passion and work and love towards this career field, acting. Is this still even who I am anymore? I'm turning 30 next month. Who am I? What do I do? And I'm here in Charleston and I'm saying, you know what? One more step, one more try. Before you call it quits, before everything is put down, you've got to do one more. So I do have one more play coming up in February. I'm going to be playing Dogsboro and Arturo Ui. It's a Brecht play, and I'm going to be doing it here at the College of Charleston. And this play that I'm going to be doing in February is it's a test to myself. I think after I do this play in February, I'm going to know through and through, no questions asked. Am I an actor? Is this still for me? Do I still keep going? I've lost the love of my life doing this job. I've lost holidays. I've lost the traditional American family outlook. You know, you want to have a good job by 30. You want to have you want to be married with possibly kids. You know, you want to have a savings plan, a retirement plan ready to go. You want to have all these things. The only thing I've ever cared about since I was 18 years old is being an actor. How do I get on stage more often? How do I perfect my craft? How do I make this a career? That's been my only concern. And now I'm turning 30 next month and I'm like, if this play does not work out for me, if I don't feel those feelings that I felt since I was 18, then it's time to hang up the cape.
Mhm.
It's time to hang up the cape, say this, hey man, I gave it 12 years of my life. And this is where I'm at my crossroads and I say, you know what? I'm going to pick up a new job, a new trade, a new degree, a new something. 'Cause I don't know. I don't want acting to end right now as we speak on this podcast right now. I don't want acting to end. But I'm so hurt, depressed, lost, angry, frustrated that I don't know if I can do this anymore. And I'm considering really, really crazy shit. I'm considering, like, what could I do? If I was talking to Jordan Peterson or Joe Rogan or Arnold Schwarzenegger, somebody that I really admire, across from the table, and ask myself, what did you do to become a very successful whatever bodybuilder, uh, psychologist, podcaster, commentator, whatever, comedian? I'm sure that all of them said that they looked at themselves one day and asked, what are all the stupid, unreasonable things that I'm doing with my life, and how do I stop them and be more towards the things I'm goal oriented towards? So I'm thinking of completely giving up video games. I've been gaming forever. It feels like I've been video gaming my whole life since I was a child. What if I gave up video games completely? What if I got my sleep under control for the first time in my life? What if I got so fit and so shredded that I was undeniably possibly a male model? What if? What if? What if I made a social media account that's worth looking at, and selling myself as a product that actors kind of have to do today? Like what if I went this far? What if I was the next Sam Sulek? What if I was the next Joe Rogan? What if I was whatever? What if I am Chris Guerrero and I go out there and I'm Rocky, I'm down on my luck. Nothing's working out, but I'm gonna train for this fight like it's the last fight of my life. And that's what 30 feels like. It feels like I'm training for the last fight of my life.
But I
Do
think
or
any of
die.
the people that you just named would say you're only 30. Like they're all much older people. Like I'll just use Dr. Peterson. I'm also
Yeah,
a fan. I actually have his autograph of his. I got the We Who Wrestle with God autographed, which is really cool.
it's incredible.
It's on the kitchen counter. Wait, I haven't read it yet. I have like you know how I am, dude. I have like 6 books like next to my chair in the living room. Just I'm constantly going through different stuff. But um, like I mean, even him in his like he went through the whole. And I'm sure there's lots of shit, but just what he talks about publicly, like with his daughter, like being born with like fucked up arthritis and like that whole process, and then changing his diet with her, and then that fucked him up, and then he was addicted to fucking benzodiazepine, and he had to like go away for years and like travel to I think Russia to find a doctor that would help him, that would put him under while he went through withdrawals, even, you know, so that he could get off the shit without it, being horrible. And I've never withdrawn from benzodiazepines. I've never even done them, but alcohol withdrawal is no joke, dude. Like one of the worst and best things I've ever been through in my life. Like it was horrifying. It was worse than any psychedelic trip, the worst bad trip I could imagine. But also, I walked away from that experience, learned so much about myself, and like completely changed. It took me time still. It wasn't like night and day, but just a lot of like reevaluating my relationships. Who do I spend my time with? What, like, how are they affecting me and how am I affecting them? And whoever that may be. What is my routine? All kinds of stuff that I was just basically burying in alcohol and pot, for years, so Peterson, came back from that, but it was hell to go through that. It was fucking arguably worse than just being so addicted to some substance that you're trying to quit to the point where you have to go to Russia to get a doctor to fucking help you. That's extreme. And he got through it, or at least apparently he's gotten through it, watching his or listening to his podcasts and his lectures and stuff. Like even now, Rogan, I mean, never had a drug problem, but like his entire life was just taking really extreme risks. I mean, as a martial artist, and then after that, like going and trying out he was on that fucking really shitty TV show. It was like a baseball show, and then that fell through, and he's like a fucking broke kid in Hollywood or whatever the fuck. And that ends up just one day just gets news radio, and that's pretty much where his career took off. Meanwhile, the entire time, being a starving artist doing stand-up comedy, then got into the UFC literally by just like being present, taking the risk to go do that. And I think if you talk to any of those people, they were just like, yeah, but they're in their like 50s, your life's not over. It's not your last fight at 29. Like that's not possible. I know it. I feel the same way. I'm practically the same age as you, and I have had that so many times. Like one really good example was, when I was a kid, my dream was to be a pro wrestler. That was my whole life, and I'm 5'7", 140 pounds. I'm not a big dude, but I really, really wanted to do this, and so I was like, my entire life was working out and training, and if I wasn't training, I'm doing promos in the mirror, recording myself, like anything I could to get an edge as a wrestler. And to the point where I had planned to move to Canada to go train with Lance Armstrong. Lance Storm, who's a world-renowned wrestling trainer. And knowing full well that I would never really make a living, it's a very small chance. I mean, very small chance. But then at the time I was like, I had other shit going on at home, and I decided to stay there. But I had gone to Georgia and taken like a course for like a week to just get familiar with the ring and how that shit works. Come back and hire a trainer. And I'm going to talk about him. He's not here to defend himself. I want to say beforehand, I do have a lot of love and respect for this guy. But my trainer was a guy named Dalton Cross. And, he was like have you ever seen the movie The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke?
Yeah, he's like a really fucked up, like old school wrestler that just his family, his life, his mental health is all just in the shit. Yeah.
That's this guy. Right. And, he's like the guy who's past his prime, constantly tracing something from his past kind of thing. And he didn't have
I'll
any
have to
money.
watch that movie again, actually. That'd be a great
movie. Darren Aronofsky, dude. Best. I love every single one of his movies I've ever seen, including Noah. I don't care what people say. But yeah, so this guy was like that. But he was kind of like, he had this really sick, almost like a cult leader vibe about him, where he was undeniably one of the most charismatic people I've ever met in my life. Like he was so good. He was very much like Jake the Snake Roberts, if anybody's a wrestling fan. Like he could talk so well. He could convince you that he fucking built the Sistine, probably. And I was a pretty slick dude. Like I wasn't like a fucking idiot where I just believed everything everyone said to me. But I saw like I could spend time around this guy and learn a lot. And I did. And some of it was so much more than just wrestling. It was just like how to deal with people, how to have people pay attention when you speak, how to speak, how to, when you're doing business, and especially in the wrestling business where it's like shady as fuck, how to not get screwed over. Tons of stuff I learned from this guy. I think I paid him a total maybe of like $1,800 over the course of like months, just as like, keep working with me. You're my trainer. We would spend hours like in the living room just watching tapes of old matches or old promos with him, just kind of like pausing it, like, what did you get from that? Very similar to some of the ways that I've heard you talk about like how you study actors. But in this case, it's more than just like a performance in terms of like acting out a scene, but also like the physical aspect and the showmanship aspect of like more like theater than I would say like camera or television. And he was never gonna take me anywhere. Like we're talking about like really small scale shit. Like he's not gonna get me into the fucking WWE or TNA at the time or any of that shit. I knew that. But I also knew instinctually, like, if I just hang around this dude, I am going to learn a lot about this business and about my life, about what not to do in a lot of cases. And I've had a lot of great relationships with people that were like, I'm going to learn what not to do by being around you, to be honest. But I mean, he would tell people like he was in ECW, WCW, had done some matches for WWF and all this kind of shit. It was all fucking nonsense. He didn't do any of that crap. As far as I know, if he did, God rest your soul, man. I love you in either way. But I mean, I watched this dude like also just kind of deteriorate over time to the point where he got put in prison or jail. I should say it was jail. And I was like visiting him, and he was like, dude, could you just give me $100 for the commissary? And I eventually had to like cut off that relationship because I was like, man, this has just gotten to the point where it's just sad and I can't help you. You know, I'm a fucking kid. But you know, he treated me like I was his own son in a lot of ways and was very much like a sort of an extension of a father figure. Um, and then I got in with another crowd of guys that were also wrestlers in the same area, and they were all telling me all the same shit that I already pretty much knew. Like, yeah, he's bullshit, you know, all this kind of stuff, blah 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 blah. And I didn't care. I was like, I just want to wrestle. I don't politics and how people feel about each other, all that stuff is not important to me. Like what I care about is the goal, which is I want to have gold around my waist and you know the crowd and all that kind of stuff. And I was getting really, in my opinion, and a lot of other people at the time's opinion, I had potential. You know, you got spunk, kid, that kind of thing. You could really go places if you try. And the trainer that I was working with, his son, I'm not going to say anybody's names because they're probably still around. I don't want to incriminate. I don't have any hard feelings. This is just a good life lesson. We were training one day, and his son was, I suspect, had been doing some illicit substances, as he was known to do. And I don't think that, because he was probably our age now, you know, then. This is, God, you know, a long time ago, a decade ago, maybe more. But he didn't really like, he was never mean to me or anything, but he clearly had a chip on his shoulder that like he knew he's never fucking going anywhere because he can't kick the fucking drugs and he's not going to get a real job. You know, he's just one of those guys. But his dad was like this kind of like local legend sort of dude. And everyone was kind of like pushing me to be like, dude, you're going to be our golden boy and we all got your back and we're going to take you places. And I think that he maybe subconsciously like resented that in a way. But he was all fucked up this night and he's like, let's do chair shots. And like any wrestler nowadays would probably be like, that's fucking insane. You shouldn't do that. Like, which means like hitting you on the top of your head with a steel chair the way they did in like the 90s. And I was like, dude, I'm going places. Like, I'm not fucking, especially not for training. Like, you're going to do that to me. We're going to do it in front of a sold out fucking audience. Right? Like, it's got to be worth the money at least. And we're not making any money here. And there's no reason for me to risk getting a concussion for that. And then they bullied me into it. And then so when he did it, he hit me not with the flat part of the chair, but with the rim of the chair straight across the top of my head. And I was like, cool. I took my bump. I rolled out of the ring and I was cool. But then like, you know, those moments when like you don't hear anything, like there's just no sound and like everything slows down. And I was like kind of standing on the side of the ring and I touched my head and there was just blood everywhere, like leaking out of my fucking skull. And I was like, fuck, I'm screwed, man. Like this, like, I didn't know what to do. Like I could barely form words. And they put me in a car, put a towel on my head, drove me to my mom's house, dropped me off and left. Cause they didn't want like liability for this, essentially. And then my mom ended up having to take me to the hospital, pay my medical fucking bills. I had staples across my head. Like I still have scars from this. And this was the worst concussion I think I've ever had. You know, like I've had a few, but this was one of, if not the absolute worst one. So bad that like for hours after this, I never lost consciousness, but like I could think what I wanted to say and I could not summon the motor skills to use my mouth to say them. I could like type to my mom, like, this is what I'm thinking or feeling or whatever, but I couldn't like orate. And it was terrifying. It was so scary. Because I thought like I'm permanently screwed now. I have brain damage or some shit. 2 weeks and I was back at it again after I healed up and everything. And that broke my spirit, dude. Like just like what you were just talking about. Like I was like, I've tried everything. I've gone to all the trainers I've trusted all the wrong people and my dream's over. And I just got a real job, worked, you know, got a girlfriend, moved out of the house, all that shit. And then one day when my old trainer, my original trainer got out of jail, he called me and he was like, Tyler, I heard what happened to you. And and I had several people calling me like, don't let this break you, man. Don't let it break you. Like you're just because you had that bad experience and all that shit. And then I ended up going back to the original guy, and he had a new house after he got out of jail and all that kind of shit. And started working with him as a trainer. I was like training other guys, and instead of me paying him, now he was like, basically using me, but I mean to train other people to do the job. And it was like reinvigorating my. I was getting more and more comfortable with the idea of doing it again by just helping other people do it. And then eventually I got back in the ring. Me and him had a few matches and shit. And then I joined the military not too long after that. And I didn't wrestle for the entire time. And I had pretty much made up my mind like, well, that dream's over. Like, that's never happening now. Then when I got to Denmark, I was doing that Realms Deep event. And I had been doing this whole like WWE style blood feud with Mike Jared for a couple of years at that point. I was like, what if we fucking did some badass wrestling shit? And it doesn't have to be anything serious, but then I ended up meeting Luke Feenan, who's the guy that like choke slams me off the stage and shit in England. Well, I met him in Germany. He's English. And me and him just bonded over, we were both former pro wrestlers who just found ourselves in the video game industry. And he's like, yeah, mate, I could do some crazy stuff, right? We got a stage, we got fucking lights and everything. And then he ends up doing that. And then I go get a fucking title belt made. And the next thing I know, I'm touring around Denmark with Body Slam Pro Wrestling, doing matches and like be like refereeing, what I do to help out, but just being involved in the business again. And it's not like I want to go be a pro wrestler right now. But what I do know is that it's not as black and white as like, this is my last shot. I'm never going to like, so I'm 29 now. I'm in Dallas Page, one of the wrestlers. Fucking had a match until he was like 35. And that's when his career started. So I know at any time, if I really just get amped up, like, even it doesn't have to be my whole life. I could just be like, I feel like doing a few matches. I could go down to the gym, train with some guys, work it up, have a show, do a match here or there, and then walk away from it and get that out of my system, but not make bet my entire life on it. I don't have to give up my wife and my kid and my house and my career in video, because I don't want to give up my career in video games. I love this life that I have built for myself. But if I need to go do that, I can. And as long as I don't get another fucking concussion that turns me, into a vegetable, I think I'm okay. I don't know why.
Saying.
Yeah.
It seems like you're trying to leave that passion of your life available to you no matter what the circumstances. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
For me, I don't know. I just know that acting, god damn, man. I mean, it is, not only is it super competitive, but you don't usually get paid a lot. You usually get paid pretty minimally. Your work life balance as an actor, it's like only whatever you book, man. Whatever you book is whatever you get. And if you book one show in the entire year, well, that's what you got. I'm trying to be realistic about it and be like, okay, well, if I can't be an actor, could I be a writer? Could I write? Could I possibly become a playwright? Could I possibly edit television scripts? Could I possibly whatever? I just need to be connected to acting in some way. But lately in my life, it feels like the answer is no. You can't. And I'm just trying to fight for that existence every single day. At this point, it's like, is this still who I am? Can I do this 10 years from the road, into 40? And I don't know. I have this weird calling after my father's death to be an actor. And it's hard to talk to my family about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to talk to my close friends about it. You're one of the easier ones to talk about it too. But it's weird, I don't care about getting married. I don't care about having a house and having kids right now. And as much as I'd love to have kids and have a house and be married and blah blah blah, I'm turning 30 next month, and the only thing that I really want in this entire life is just to be an actor. I don't have anything else. There's nothing. Nothing. I don't have anything else. That's it. I just, if it were my choice, if it were me to tell you how I wanted to die tomorrow, I want to be 95 years old on stage playing Death of a Salesman,
Tennessee Williams.
and I want to die on stage. I want to have a heart attack right there. And when I get whisked away in the ambulance, and there I am, my heart's failing, I was on stage and I died. I feel like that's how I want to go out, regardless of children, love of my life, passion, being married, whatever the fuck people care about today. Being famous. I really don't give a fuck. I don't. Right now, today, in this moment, I wish that I would be 95 years old, still acting on stage, and my heart just gives out. My organs just give out. They just said, hey, man, you died loving what you love to do, being truthful in imaginary circumstances. That's what I want. I don't want anything else in this world. If I could be acting every single day of my life, I would. And I say that out loud, but what am I doing right now? What am I doing? I'm going to college for theater in a Bachelor of Arts program now. It's not as intense as a BFA.
Mhm.
And I'm learning the history, language. I'm learning mathematics and all the other shit they teach you in college. But I got an opportunity to act. I got an opportunity to act in February, and I know I got the play coming in next week, or actually, I got the play coming in Wednesday,
Mhm.
and I know that if I don't take this seriously, if I don't care about it as hard as I usually do, then this just isn't for me anymore. And maybe it is time to grab a trade or a real job or I don't know, some other goal or passion in life. Maybe I could be a cop. Maybe I could be an acting teacher. I don't fucking know, but it's complicated right now. My whole life feels like it's questioning itself, and I don't know where to go. And
You
I
know,
don't know.
like Dave Chappelle used to just go to the park in like Seattle with a fucking microphone and a karaoke machine and just start doing stand up.
Yeah, I've heard about that story.
Like that kind of shit. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do everything you can to live a full healthy life. I 100% like what I want for you as your friend, regardless of what you want, is for you to be like happy and healthy and balanced. And if you want to die doing Tennessee Williams at 95, I hope you're happy also, not just there. But I will just say, if it's so extreme to whatever your dream is out there, I don't know. If it's so extreme to you that you absolutely must do it, and you don't, if, in your own words, like I don't give a fuck about the house and the money and all that kind of shit.
Let's correct that. Death of a Salesman was written by Arthur Miller. I knew
My
it was
bad.
somebody else. I knew
My
it
bad.
wasn't Tennessee Williams.
Well, I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
um, but you, if it's that extreme where it's like I don't care about any of these other things that come along with it, fame, money, for any of that shit, you just want to do it. Then what? Like, because you're already writing your own scripts. Like, what's preventing you and me from like writing a script, getting a bunch of people together who are passionate about acting, and renting a public space and putting on a show? Like,
I don't
there's
know.
the only nothing. We could be doing audio play. I have everything right here. Like we have microphones. We have like we could do fucking audio play. We could do anything we want in show business. And I'm not saying that it's like what's your dream is to be on, on stage, and you should do that. But I mean, like
I
we could just have so much fun. Like life is just full of options.
you
It's not just this one
you ever
thing.
see you ever see that movie Birdman
Fuck
by
yeah, dude. Great
Alejandro
movie.
Inarritu?
Oh my god, dude.
It's got
Fucking
it's got
incredible. Jennifer
it's got a
Lawrence in
great
that.
cast. Um
I think
anyway, the movie's about actors.
Michael Keaton, right?
Michael
Star of the
Keaton's
movie.
in it, Edward
Dude,
Norton's in it.
the soundtrack, dude.
Zach Galifianakis is in it,
The
but
drums.
that movie is one of the only very, very few movies that's specifically about acting, like what acting is, what it's about, what actors go through. Um, and I watch that movie and it gives me chills. I mean, it makes me want to cry just thinking like that's all I ever really wanted in this entire life that we're given, whether it be from God or from some other biological source, I don't know. But I feel like if I was just given free choice, like if I was given the opportunity to choose my life and how I live every day, every single day, I wouldn't. It's so weird because I try to talk to people about this in my personal life and professionally, educationally, whatever. And all I've ever really wanted was
I'm
just
sorry,
to
man.
just to act. That's all I care about, you know? And the feeling of it is it's so psychedelic. It's so surreal. It's so I think when I first realized what acting was about, it kind of felt like being Neo in the Matrix.
Mhm.
When Neo touches the mirror and it engulfs him and he finally gets unplugged from the Matrix in the back of his head and he sees what real life is like.
It sounds like it's
That's
a very spiritual experience for you. Like,
yeah,
you
to
feel like it's your calling, like, "This is I'm supposed to do this."
to be an actor and to feel it and to really be there and to do the process moment to moment. There's there's nothing else in this world that I can possibly think of that's as strong as that. And
Mm.
I wish I could do it every waking moment of my life.
Take a minute if you need to.
It's hard to understand because, as a child when my father died, acting became this way to understand how to live life instinctually, truthfully, how to how to live imaginary versus, the reality of my life at the moment. And
Mhm.
when I learned what acting was, through Meisner and through my teachers' lessons and how to balance it all, and there was nothing in this entire universe, not a single drug experience, not a single uh moment with anyone, not a dream, nothing. There was nothing that could compare to the strength and the clarity and that moment where I'm connecting with someone in this reality of what we call life into a moment, into a moment where I'm sharing this dialogue in this complex human emotion and I'm peeking into someone's consciousness and I'm feeling wants, as a person and I have needs. And I'm there in the moment looking at them, trying to figure out what this scene is about. Well, whatever the writer was intending to write this scene of what it was about. And to peek into someone's consciousness and and feel them and allow myself to feel how I feel and be there. That there's nothing else in this world that feels so, I don't know, psychedelic, so energizing, so it feels like life is worth living for, you know? That's what that's what I'm chasing, you know? That's what I'm chasing is that, that feeling over and over and over and over again. And I wish more guys that had PTSD like I did when I was a child knew. I wish there were more children and more people that went through what I went through as a child,
Mhm.
watching my father die. I wish they knew that there's something more to that experience, and, I found it, and god damn it, I wish that's all I wanna live for, still today. And if I have to put it away in a box and say, "You know what? This isn't what life is about," you know? It's time to move on. The world doesn't need me. They don't need me to be an actor right now. Then okay. But until February of 2024, I'm gonna put it away. Until that time. And so I make myself these ultimatums or these challenges to let myself know, like, is this still for me? So
I just feel like it doesn't have to be that extreme. Like this shit, like this play, right? Why does it got to be your last play? Why does it not just like your first play of this era of Chris Guerrero, right? Like Bowie, right? One of my all-time favorites. Constantly reinvented himself and dealt with very dark shit, you know, like for like multiple years would just be like surviving off fucking cocaine and milk in his apartment until he had this epiphany to reinvent himself in this new way. So he'd be Bowie and then he would be, you know, the fucking uh, Ziggy Stardust, and so on and so forth. Madonna, I don't know much about her personal life, but you know, same sort of thing, constantly reinventing herself. And if you have to like take time, that's the key thing that I keep like kind of like recurring to in my thoughts about like a lot of what you bring up. It's like if you have 3 years from today to the next time you perform, and then you come back hard, like fucking like think about oh my god, Robert Downey Jr. and what he went through.
yeah,
And then he came back, and he was better than ever when he came back. It's okay to, like, be depressed, you know, it's
I
okay
don't
to
know.
yeah, yeah.
It's been so long since I've been on stage. It's been so complicated and so so unfair and so confusing that I just don't know until I get back up there on stage. I need to know. I need to know. Like if I get up there in February and I still love it, you know, as hard as I do, I need to know. I need to know that like me deep down, was I meant to do this for the rest of my life? I need to know. And it's a scary question.
Mhm.
It's a it's a it's a painful question because I've spent so much time chasing this one thing that, you know, it's still 12 years later, it's still not what I want it to be. But I feel something, oddly enough. I feel something deep down in my heart, in my bones, in my brain that this is all that matters. And I just when I get back up on stage this next time, I'll know.
I think
I'll
you're
know whether it's time to put it up or to move on or to keep going.
you're already there, man.
I just need to know when I'm physically on stage, did this matter enough again? And that's how much it means to me. And it's weird because you know, when I when I talk to friends or family or anyone about this, Most people walk through their lives and they don't have a passion. They don't have a thing that they wake up every morning and they wonder, like, what do I do with my life? What is meaningful to me? What do I do? Who do I care about? Who do I love? And mine is it's so simple and so concentrated and so direct. All I care about, all I've ever cared about is this one thing that saved my life when I was young. And I need to know physically right now. Do I do I still love it? During this podcast, I feel like I still love it. I mean, why would I be crying over it, right?
No, I
If
feel
I
like
didn't
you
love
do.
it.
Clearly, you love wrestling. Or
I'm such a I'm
I
such
love wrestling. Freudian
I'm
slip.
such
No,
a
you
I'm
love
such a
acting.
sensitive guy, at the end of the day, I really am. And it's
That's
hard
okay, man.
because, you know, being a sensitive guy, you're always questioning your masculinity, like, how hard am I, whatever. Um, Acting to me, man, it's what I dream, it's what I fantasize, it's what I imagine, it's what I daydream, it's what I sleep dream, it's every waking moment of my life is always asking myself, what am I doing to detract myself from this passion in my life? And I know what is detracting me from it. You know, um, all the time that I could have been spent on making film scripts or theater scripts. What am I doing? I'm playing fucking video games. I'm being depressed in my room. I'm walking around. I'm hitting the gym nonchalantly. When in reality, you know what the real thing I should be doing is connecting with people that are like-minded. I should be positive. I should be waking up every morning and thinking, God damn it, I have another day to do this thing, to go chase it. And it's so hard to be positive when the last, what it feels like 5 years of my life have just been so destructive and hurtful and misguiding and confusing. The last 5 years of my life have been really challenging when it comes to this craft that I love.
There's gonna be so many times where you have like a role in your future, right? A career, or even just an actual life decision. When every single one of those challenges is gonna make sense when you approach a situation and you're like, I've seen this before, or I've made this mistake, or I've seen someone else make this mistake, or make this choice correctly, and these are the results they got, or whatever. I, it's really easy for me to sit here and say because currently I'm in a pretty stable emotional headspace, which is rare. But to be completely like, I know like when the microphone's on, I come across as like, man, Tyler's a really smart dude. He's got his shit together. But the truth is, I mean, just like you, I'm a ridiculously sensitive person and I have all kinds of issues and I've struggled with them since I was a child. I mean, I have so many times where I'll just catch myself falling into an old pattern. Like it could be as simple as like a disagreement over a fucking, I don't know, why is this towel on the floor? And I'm like, for me, it escalates to the point of like, this towel's on the floor because you don't respect me. It's because you're not listening to like how I feel. You're not considering like, what the truth is just like, this towel's just on the fucking floor. Who cares? Like the dog didn't mean to fucking drag the towel there. It doesn't even know any better. Why am I so fucking, but I got really used to because of the way I grew up. I think like everything has to be a fucking, like you have to stand up for yourself or you won't get anything, you know? Like, and you have to be the loudest person in the room or else no one will hear you. And, sometimes it's just something as simple as like my wife being like, you don't have to be the loudest person in the room. I'm listening to you. Like, I care what you think. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm an idiot. Like, but it's the most cliche shit ever. But like, the is I still struggle to this day. Like every time I look at someone else fucking enjoying a beer, I'm like, ah, fuck, a beer would be so nice right now. But I just can't, and that's okay. And a big transition for me too was like learning how to be around other people and respect that that's something that they can do comfortably, and it's just not something a door I need to open for myself. Because ultimately, what I care about, you really care about like this one thing in life is the most important thing, right? And that was for me for the longest time was always like my career. It was like the number one. I'm married to what I want to do for a living, and the fucking instant that I knew I was going to be a dad, that all went out the window. Now it's like I don't need a career. What I need is to be a good dad, and part of that is to have a healthy career. I don't. I look at a video game and it's like, on one hand, I really am passionate about this game, but not only it's not just because I want to make the greatest piece of art in the world and have people give me fucking awards and shit because I made such a great video game, or people to tell me how amazed they are by this fucking uh I don't know, decision that we made in the design or whatever the fuck. What I care about is that when my kid grows up and they look back at what their dad did with his life, are they going to be proud of that? When I'm like, my grandpa passed away the first day I was filming the last Realm Steep that we did. And I got the phone call and I could have flown home right then and there, but they told me, like, my dad was like, he would have wanted you to finish what you're doing. Like, he was that kind of guy. He's like, fucking put your boots on, go to work. What he would have wanted was for me to see that through. And so I put everything I had into that performance for him. But then I think about like what kind of man do I want to be? And like I want to be the kind of guy that my granddad is, where it's like when he died, like you're talking about dying on stage and people applauding your performance or whatever the fuck. Like when people knew he was dying, like because we knew ahead of time, thousands of people would come and like burn out their hot rods in our driveway and shit to pay respect to my grandpa because they loved him so much, because they respected him as a man, not as the guy who worked at Shell Chemical and retired, not as the race car driver, not as the hunter or the fisherman or the fan of football. None of that shit fucking mattered. They were like, he was a great dude. And like for me, when I look at my wife's tummy and I see that little critter growing every time we see an ultrasound, I'm like, what are they going to think of me? What are my grandkids going to think of me? What in 10 generations from now, when someone's looking up their ancestry.com on Mars, they want to know what great 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 grandpa of Ty was like, or great, whatever. I hope it's a rad story, and I also hope that they think I was a good person.
Yeah.
And something to aspire to hope to be like, and not, I don't want it to be like me, where I grew up being like, I don't want to be like this. I don't want to I don't want them to be afraid to talk to me. I don't want them to think that I'm going to fucking yell if they leave a towel on the floor. I just want them to like think that I'm a good dude and something to be like.
I mean,
Hard work, dedication, all that stuff. Empathy.
I'm a I'm a month away from 30. So I mean, I constantly think about like kids and what it would be like to have a future generation of me's running around, and how do you choose the right partner to do those things with. But that whole thing still to this day is still just so, it's like it's so far as a second step still for me. And I know that it's real. I know that it's still important to me. I know that that's a part of being a human in this life is procreating and having someone after you. But very, very far away, up at the top of the mountain, for me, is to just be acting every day, all day, nothing in between. I would, I don't know what I would sacrifice. I would sacrifice quite a lot
Po-
to just
But
live that lifestyle every single day.
one day you might be practicing scenes with your daughter. You don't know.
I
Like,
don't know.
I promise you, like, I know it sounds so fucking cliche because so many people say this, but like really, it does not happen until it happens. Like the moment that it was real is when the switch turned in my head. Like I got sober that moment. Like I don't want to be an alcoholic because I don't want my kid to see that and grow up with that. And it was just like I know a lot of people even still struggle with it afterwards. And I'm not saying it's not a struggle, but I'm just saying like that was a light switch. It was that fast for me. Like that's over. Like that part of my life is done. I mean, it got real fucking spiritual on me, and I was like,
Hmm.
I don't care what. I was like so depressed, man, for so long, and I would be like praying, like, please just give me some reason to kick this habit, to stop hurting myself, and to like love life again. And I had a moment like that, like earlier in the day, and then I picked her up from the airport, and she came home, and she was like, gave me her suitcase. She's like, "Can you open that for me? I need something out of it." And I open it up, and it's like baby bags with like all the little, basically like daddy's first parenting kit kind of shit. And I was just like, I burst into tears and I like fell to my knees. I was like, this is the universe telling me to fucking be a man. Like set everything that I want aside and like fucking live for this.
Yeah.
And it was super emotional. Like and then I was like, for weeks after that, I was like over the moon. And that first week of detoxing from basically drinking all day every day was hell. It was the second time that I had like quit like that. The first time I had to be hospitalized because like I said earlier in this, like I was fucking hallucinating, like bad trip for like 4 straight days. But even still, like it's just fucking rough. And it's like when that becomes like your go-to, your comfort zone, every time you have like oh, this is a little stressful, I'll just take the edge off. When you don't have that anymore, you actually have to like figure out how to deal with your feelings too. And I know I'm kind of rambling here, but like the point is like life is so much more than just the one thing you think is important. It's got to have a bigger reason than just that. And I totally get where you're coming from because I'm not saying you're wrong. I don't know. Your path may be different from mine, but I had exactly the same mindset of like, if I, and I kept doing it, like you're saying, like making these ultimatums to myself. Like, if I could just get to Denmark, if I could just publish that game, if I could just finish this thing, if I could just make this business deal, then
Mhm.
I'll fucking finally be complete. And every single day that that would happen, I would feel a high, and then I would go home and drink myself to sleep because I was like, the high doesn't last.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, if you gave me my perfect world, I don't know. Um, it's complicated getting. eh, People always talk about how women feel complicated into their 30s because that's when the
The the window's kind of closing on
process,
whether, yeah.
yeah, the
Uh,
process of procreating becomes smaller. The window.
you could be like
Um,
David Letterman, just popping them out in your fucking 80s
I
and
think I
stuff.
feel it. I feel it as a man. I feel it.
Mm.
Truthfully. Um, but at the same time, there's just nothing that's as strong as that feeling of acting. Nothing. Um, I just I don't care. I just need to know. I need to know by the age of 30 if this is still as passionate and as crazy as I am as I was when I was 18. Is it still there? Is it still as strong? Does it still make sense? Does it still, when I wake up in the morning and I know I'm doing it today, does it still does it make me feel like a Super Saiyan? Like I wake up in the morning and I can turn on that Super Saiyan button and go like, bam, like there I am, like I'm ready to go. And until that day where it doesn't, I'll give up. I'll know that it wasn't for me and that I can move on and I can say I did my best. I got as far as I could. But
What?
today, right now, what is today? Today is Monday, December 16th, 2023,
24.
24.
You-
Uh, Today, right now, December 16th, 2024, um, when I wake up in the
11:11
morning,
p.m. Wait, 11:11. Make a wish.
11:11 p.m. when I wake up in the morning and when I go to bed at night, I'm still fucking angry. I'm still fucking enormously angry. I'm frustrated. I'm depressed. I want to destroy the entire world. I want to destroy myself because I'm not doing the thing that I love every day. And I know that when that feeling ends, when I no longer feel that tornado of emotions haunting me and stalking me and moving me, I'll give up. And it's not there yet. I still feel really strongly about acting, so I'm gonna keep pressing through. And it's painful and it's scary and it's weird and it doesn't it won't make sense to a lot of people. I don't give a fuck. I just know that I can feel it. It's underneath my skin, it's in my bones, it's in my heart, it's in my brain, it's in every waking moment. When I look in the mirror, I see it. And until it stops existing in my reality, I'll give up. But come February, I'll know. And
So
so that's
like,
where I'm at today.
and because you said the phrase like in my perfect world, like I feel like the way that you talk about acting, as if you talk about it like it's in this magical, intangible thing. But I guess the question that I have for you is like, what exactly is the goal? Like aside from the dying at 95 thing on stage doing not Tennessee Williams, like what would be like just describe like a week of doing exactly what you love,
Oh,
living the lifestyle
actually,
you
yeah, I was listening to a podcast with Dr. Huberman and I think a female doctor as well. And they
oh
were
for sure.
talking about how a psychological exercise that's really good to practice is one where you would imagine your perfect day. How does it start? How does it end? What entailed in it?
Mhm.
And I took it to heart. I took to heart this exercise, and I asked myself like, what would a perfect day be like for me? And I have the perfect day. I have it. Thankfully for this interview. um, my perfect day starts around 9 or 10 a.m. Doesn't have to be exact. And I wake up next to a woman who I'm not only physically and emotionally attracted to, but I feel like I'm connected to on a molecular level, on a faith level,
Interesting
on a
word.
level on a level that is impenetrable. And when I wake up next to this person, I look at her, I say good morning, and we get some sort of hot beverage into our system, and we're walking at least 2 miles in the morning together.
Mhm.
And on this walk, we turn our cell phones off. In my perfect world, it's chilly. It's around 65 to 70 degrees. We have a light jacket on. We're walking 2 miles in the morning. And if we're not doing lines together to help me get ready for the day, which, is it's a little demanding, asking her to do my lines with me in the morning. If it's not that, then it's, what's going on with our lives? How does she feel today? How do I feel today? What are the things that we're looking forward to? What are the things that are obstacles, for us? What do we want to accomplish at the end of the day? How do you feel today? And after that 2 mile walk, I'm imagining it's around 11:30 a.m. I'm back home. I'm taking a shower. I'm checking my emails. I'm maybe I got a Zin in my fucking mouth. Maybe I got more caffeine in my system. And we're ready to go, Jack. And I'm looking at my email and I'm saying, okay, I got a couple of offers. I got a couple of scripts. I got a couple of things to look over. Maybe I wrote a few things and I needed to edit them. And, I'm acting. I'm writing. I'm maybe directing, hopefully. That'd be kind of cool. Uh, and once that's over, it's go time. I'm auditioning. I got my camera out. It's around what 1 p.m. in the day. I'm auditioning. I'm sending in my auditions for the day. Uh, all right, that's over with. It's 2 3 p.m. My wife, she's either at work working with the kids. She's at, I don't know, maybe she's supporting me. I don't really know. Helping me with my lines, my auditions. I don't know. She could be doing any of those things. Don't necessarily need her to do those things, but if she does them, well, that's ideal. All right, it's 2 p.m. You got to start doing your lines. You got a show. You got a rehearsal at 7, 8 p.m. at night. I better have my lines down. I'm running around the house like a headless chicken, spitting out lines in different ways and verses and different ideas. I've got a giant white dry erase board full of all of the lines that I need to do and all of the ideas and bubble maps and all the notes I have and I have a computer that's got all my notes and all my things like written out and ready to go, and I've done all my research on this character that I need to do for my lines for that night, that rehearsal. All right, it's over. 7 8 p.m. I'm walking on the film set, the theater, whichever the two, and I'm there and I'm ready to go and I've got all my lines. I've practiced a million times. I've done my research. I'm ready to go. And my wife is at home, either taking care of business, cleaning, kids. Maybe she has her own job. I don't fucking know. I don't really care. As long as I'm here at this job making the money, I'm good. And I'm doing it the right way. And I'm doing it with my full heart's intent. And there I am, acting. I don't give a fuck if I'm the main character. I don't give a fuck if I'm the fucking, I don't know, the uncle to the protagonist and I have 10 lines. I don't give a fuck. I'm there doing the best job that I can. And there I am, rehearsal. Rehearsal's probably till 1 o'clock in the morning, 1 a.m. I come home and this person that I decided to share my life with is taking care of whatever needs to be taken care of. And I'm very thankful for the life that I've been given. I say my prayers, love my wife, love my family. And God damn it, we get up and we go up to 7, 8 a.m. and we do it again. And we do it again. And we do it again. And that's my life. That's what I want. I just want to act, have a living from it, and love someone the way that I would love them. And it's complicated trying to make that happen in real life, but I don't want anything else. I'm not a complicated guy. That's what I want. I just want to act.
So what's preventing you from like you're in Charleston area,
Yeah.
right? What's preventing you from like going to the local theater company and just telling them like, "Hey, I'd like to be part of the company."
Well, they have I think yearly auditions to be part of their theater company. I just got here. But I think the auditions are in December, January, February timeframe, and then you go in and you audition for their yearly season. Do you qualify to be in a musical? Do you qualify to be in a play? Blah blah blah. Um, and I've asked myself, like, would you, if you weren't in college, would you be like in a traveling theater, you know, group? Would you be? What would you be doing right now? And
I just feel like you'd be way happier actually acting than
right,
you would be doing math for
I
3
I
hours.
agree, and there's a process to it. I mean, I thought that being part of an acting program that was so well renowned and so well regarded and, sold themselves in a certain way. When I got there, I thought that this would help me. It didn't. And then to be an actor, it's very competitive. So when you go into an audition, just because you go into an audition doesn't mean you get the gig. You have to make your bills and your money some other way. So if that means stocking shelves at a grocery store, delivering packages at UPS, or being a
Listen,
pizza guy, like whatever it may be, you got to do that, juggling that while you're an actor. You got to have 3 or 4 fucking roommates, wherever you're living. And I'm trying to, now that I'm out of the military, now that I have my military benefits and I'm going to college, I'm trying to figure out, like, what is the best case scenario? What is the most strategic, most healthy? What's the right way on how to tackle this? And right now, I'm just trying to get my life together. It's a mess, and it
okay.
hurts. And yeah, that's where I'm at.
If you love this show and you love supporting indie video games, please take a moment to check out In the Keep's upcoming Stellar Valkyrie. Built in the GZ Doom engine, this retro first-person shooter puts you in the universe of space bird bounty hunter Falco, who is on a mission to save his ex-girlfriend from the evil Black Star cult. Just type birdgame.space, that's BIRD game.space into your browser, hit enter, and smash that wishlist button. And stay tuned. And now, back to the show. Listen, this is what we're going to do. We're going to get your Chris Guerrero experience, or whatever you want to call it, podcast going. And we're going to find these motherfuckers. I've already found them on the net. Their names are Jeff Querin and Stephen Wayne. They own local 34 West Productions theater there. And that's like their native theater. They write and perform everything there from the looks of it. Okay? We get them on your podcast. You skip the audition. You just impress them with how charismatic you are. You become friends. You're like, hey, maybe we catch a beer sometime. You buy them a beer. You buy them, get them drunk. And then you just start doing fucking Shakespeare in front of them. By the way, these are real people. I'm not making shit up. And maybe I'll come down to Charleston because I'm not too far away, right? We just spend the whole weekend doing this. I don't care. And then we find like all their other theater friends or whatever. And then you tell them about your experience, and then they get talking, and then they're like, oh my God, that's crazy. Like I had a fucking similar thing, and then I ended up here, or whatever the fuck. Or you meet somebody who's traveled all the way. Maybe there's a nice lady that's part of this. I don't fucking know. The point is, in my life experience, right? I never did the whole college. I'm actually considering going back to school for completely different reasons. It has nothing to do with my career, but more just like I want to learn about particular subjects and shit. But I have never gotten shit done by playing with the system. Everything I've ever done, even in the military, was me going around the fucking system to make something work with like interpersonal connections. Like, think when I went back to the 25th Operational Weather Squadron, Tucson, Arizona, Davis-Monthan Air Force Base, right? And I'm talking to like all the old fucking civilians and shit, and people who were still there that knew me from back then. And still to this day, like the way I got out of the military is still like legendary. Like that guy had the craziest fucking plan I've ever heard in my life, and he did it. And that's real. Like, and it's crazy. Like to me, it just sounds like my life. But like I realized that when I talk to other people, it's like, you did what? And it's literally by just talking to people, just putting yourself out there and being like, yeah, whatever. And like, not like, because if you meet someone in the context of an audition, that you're one of 100 people who walked in that day and you're like, okay, get the fuck out of here. But if you meet them in a different context, the way that I don't think this is just like makes anybody a dick or whatever. I just mean like the context in which you are presented to someone makes a big difference as to how they perceive you. So there's I did not expect to become a video game producer at any particular company. I ran a podcast about video games and just met the right guy who gave me that job. And then along the, even now, like running my own company, the people that I'm working with are people who I just met along the way. Like every single one of them, like some of my best clients are like folks that I met in completely different circumstances, or because they were like talking to me about something I was doing, or I was talking about your video game. And then later when they came to me, they're like, dude, you know a lot about marketing. Can you help me with this? I'm like, sure. You know, and you just build relationships. And that's like the best advice I could give to anybody. Like, people who ask me, like, how do you do whatever the fuck? You're like, should I go to school for this? I'm like, unless it's to be a fucking surgeon or like something that requires a degree to get your foot in the door, start a podcast and just start talking to people who do what you want to do. And then when you introduce yourself to someone, don't be like, I want to be this, but I'm a this now. Just tell them, like, I'm Chris Guerrero, I'm an actor. Oh, really? An actor? Like, yeah, what have you done? Tell them everything you've done. They don't fucking know. They don't know what the context of that was. If someone's like, to me, if it's in a wrestling context, like, what do you do? Like, I'm Todd Brennan. I'm a wrestler. Really? Where'd you wrestle at? And then I'll just tell them everything I've ever done. And it's not like I was in the WWE. It's not like I ever won any fucking title belts. But if I just say, like, I wrestled this company in the Southeast and I did that, I toured around for a while. I, took several years off. I went to Denmark. I did this fucking video game thing. And then I ended up wrestling with Body Slam for a while. I did a couple of whatever, refereeing, that kind of shit. That's all true. I'm not lying. I'm not presenting myself in a false way. I'm just being like, this is what I am. And as long, if you tell somebody, like, I'm a key grip, but one day I want to be an actor, they're like, okay, well, work your way up, or I don't know. But if you just say, like, oh, I'm a writer. I wrote a play. Trying to find someone to see it. They don't give a fuck that you're a key grip. They're just like, oh, well, let's look at your writing. What is this?
Yeah.
Why is this not on stage? And I just think that there's so much to presentation and interpersonal connection that a lot of people, instead of making those jumps, what they do is they just look for a system that's already in place to hopefully get them there and take the bet on that. I mean, if you wanted to be a fucking priest, or you got to go to college to be a priest, maybe, but you'd also have to, like, actually read the book, maybe, go to a church, talk to people, get involved in that, the whole thing. If you want to be an electrician, like, do you go to college to be an electrician, or do you go find an electrician and say, I want to be an electrician, and then they teach you how to be an electrician? There's so much to that. I don't know. I feel like I'm rambling, but also, like, that's the way to get it just seems so obvious to me. Just go straight to the fucking source and introduce yourself.
Yeah, they only have openings every so once in a while.
Doesn't matter if you make friends with them now in a year. They're like, oh, yeah, sneak Chris in the back. Like, he doesn't need to.
The way I'm trying to word it to myself is like, okay, this time that you're getting your bachelor's degree with the help of the government because you earned it through the military, my GI Bill, I'm just I try to tell myself I'm resetting myself. If I want to get a hair transplant, I'm going to get it. If I want to, consolidate my debts, pay them off. If I want to be really in shape, get a nasty looking body. This is what this time is for, is to recollect myself, figure out who I am. Do I still want this thing? And if so, well, I got another 10 years of craziness coming, but this next 10 years is going to be from 30 to 40. And it's, acting is a competitive, lonely, unforgiving road. And it's not for the faint of heart. This road is,
sounds like acting school is for the faint of heart, the way that you described.
It's
maybe acting school is for the faint of heart, and acting is the hard thing to do.
I don't know. I've done a lot of weird shit in my life as far as acting goes, and
I've seen you, like, get on stage at an open mic night for comedy and then start doing Shakespeare, and you were fearless. You were just like, no one was even in the audience. It was like, I didn't even realize that the room was empty. By the way, I was in the front row, and everybody had fucking left by the time you went on stage. And there's just like
my life, man.
Me and the guy running the show there. And then when I stood up, and I was like, oh my God. And then I'm like, no one's here. And I was like, dude, this is amazing. But, like, if you can do that, you can walk down to the fucking theater company and invite a guy out for a beer. You could send a cold email. I
I
can't
don't know.
tell you how many things I've done that were like cold emails. Like,
I,
and as long as you're polite about it,
it still drives me crazy. So
you
until it
got this.
doesn't, until it doesn't drive me crazy, until it doesn't make me emotional and want to blow up in 12 different ways that you've never seen, um, is the day that I'm going to stop. And I'm scared that that day will come, but it hasn't come yet. And I'm just fighting to live that next day where I hope it's still there, where I wake up in the morning and it's still screaming at me. So
Send me the info on this play. I think I'm gonna come. Do I have to buy a ticket? How's this work?
Arturo Ui, it's a Brecht play, Bertoli Brecht.
No,
Um,
like send me like a link to where the location and the date
oh,
of the ticket.
where you get tickets for admission? Yeah,
Yeah,
I can do that.
you can't get me a
Um,
snuck in the back.
yeah, I'll see what I can do, and it should be playing in Charleston around February. This is an epic play. Um, it's got a lot of Nazis and 1930s, 1940s Chicago Italian mobsters involved. I know it has
Okay,
something to do with
that's fine.
your old game, your other game that you were trying to develop.
I was literally about to say that sounds so familiar.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And we'll see where it goes from there. I played Dogsboro, the mayor of the town,
Mhm.
and that's where I'm at.
That sounds awesome. That sounds like you have something to look forward to and not something to put a lot of pressure on yourself about, dude. It's gonna be
Well,
epic.
I mean, it's always a lot of pressure to be on stage. It's always, but I'm ready to go. It's still screaming at me every morning.
One of the crazy things about my wrestling experience was that I was very much the original guy, Dalton Cross. Like what he taught me was basically improv, like communicating with the other guy in the ring and then like doing what feels natural instead of like going out there with it exactly the plan of every single move you're going to do and trying to do it verbatim and all that shit. Everything was just like, we're just going to talk out there. You know, once we're locked up, they can't see our mouths and we're just going to tell each other, like, okay, get ready, clothesline, self run it, you know, turn around and then ready for the big elbow, you know, that kind of shit. And a lot of indie wrestlers are the kind of people who are like, they've got strings around their fingers to remember every move they're going to do, you know, and they sit down in the locker room and they plan out the whole thing ahead of time. And then they go out there and something goes wrong and then they fucking derail. They just don't know what to do. It falls apart. And then they have to bring it back together, which is the hard part because they don't know how to improvise in a lot of cases. And then you'll have people fucking frustrated and throwing their shit and all that kind of stuff. Um, and I've never worked that way. Like I was always like, yeah, man, like basically we'll just get like the big things down. Like we'll go out, we'll start like this, and then you know, we'll fuck around for a little while. I'll run around outside of the ring and piss somebody off. When I get back in, then you know, grab me, do your big thing that you do, get that big pop, and I'll do the thing again where I run around the ring or something like that. And then just make sure we both know the finish. Referee, let you know the time to just let us know when we have like 3 minutes left, and then you'll do your finishing move, pin me, go home. And I would always do business like that. And then once we're out there, I would just be like talking to the guy. And a lot of these like indie dudes, not that I'm not one of them, but I'm just saying like they don't know how to work that way. And then they like would be bewildered by like the way that I would do shit because the last match that I had was with this kid named Booster. And I did it like that. Like they had this whole majestic plan of how it was going to work out before I even got to the fucking, you know, venue. And I told him, like, as soon as he was done explaining, he's like, there's no chance I'm remembering any of that. Just go out there. We'll talk in the ring. Remember that you have your finishing move and we'll go with it. And for the whole, like, I watched it back now and it's like, it's not even a terrible match at all. Like, and that was the first time I had wrestled in like 6 years or some shit. And like, it was all just being comfortable with like the fact that you can't control every aspect, especially when it's live. Like in film, maybe less so in TV, but definitely like motion pictures. You have a lot of takes. You can like do it, you know, get everything, the shot exactly right, all that kind of stuff. But when you're live and you just have to be like moving the whole time, if you fuck up, you can't just be like, oh man, we fucked up. You have to make it look natural. And I like that way of working a lot. It's very similar to, I think, podcasting too, where we're only going to get one take at this thing. I can stop and edit and stuff, but like it's a different skill memorizing something versus like basically channeling. And it's even weirder when two people have to be on the same level at the same time. And
Mm.
in tag team matches, 4 people, 6 people, whatever. That takes a lot, but it's a completely different skill set. So I find that really, really fascinating how much like pressure it is on an actor to like know their lines exactly. I'm like, can't you just like say something that's basically the same thing if you're drawing blank?
I mean, if it's Tennessee Williams, you better know the other actor's lines, your lines, and then the writer's notes and the director's notes and the history of the play, and honor it as hard as you can, and then bring your own take onto it. There's a lot of process to it, and
Right,
I
but like
live
that's
for it.
for the critics and the
I,
other
I know
actors
it.
are
I know
doing.
what you're saying.
Like the
It's what
audience,
you're
they don't
what
fucking know.
what you're saying is like to be that person in the moment, the performer, the guy that is on the spot.
Right. Like,
What did you bring today, right
yeah,
now?
I'm not Dwayne, the guy who like memorized all his lines this morning. I'm the Rock, and while I'm out there, between the moment I walk out of that curtain and the moment I walk back in, I'm the fucking Rock. And the Rock would do this and act this way. And if
Right, and
something
you
goes
already
wrong, the
know
Rock, yeah,
when things do go wrong. You already know, like you
hmm
don't have to think. You will act as that person.
yeah.
Uh,
You'll do
it,
what the
it
Rock would
takes
do.
Yeah, it takes an enormous amount of dedication. It takes an enormous amount of research and development and
Yeah,
process.
that's so crazy, man. I don't think I could do that. Like, I don't think I would be happy doing that. I feel like it would destroy me. Like if I had all this pressure on me to be exact, and I guess it's different for the audience than, you had to answer to the director. And if you do something the director doesn't like, regardless of how the audience reacted, they're going to have notes and they're going to be like,
Mm,
you fuck this up. I don't like it. Your shit canned. Get out of here. You're a disgrace to the theater. Why do people take themselves so fucking seriously?
I
Like
don't know.
it's a play. It's called playing. It's a game. It's for, little kids can do it.
I don't know, but I live for it.
Man, it's
I live
awesome.
every waking moment for it.
That's awesome, dude. Um, I don't think I had a whole lot else I specifically wanted to ask you about, but I mean, your plays in February, so you got 2 months to prepare, roughly.
Yep. February 2025.
Not 2023. And where do you where do you sit with the stuff that you're writing? Like, is this just for school, or do you see trying to do any production with that?
In terms of writing, it's really it's hard because I don't have a lot of friends that are writers. So
Mm,
it's not like I can bounce off my ideas with another writer. It's usually just me, and I'm plugging away at something that I want to write, whether it be a play or a movie or a short film or whatever, a commercial. Um, but I allow myself to experiment, play around. I research. I do a lot of digging in podcasts or other people's scripts. Um, and I take what I see and what I read and what dig up from my classes in college or on the internet, and I do my best to recreate my own things and see how they play out. And um, one day, I mean, if I'm not going to be an actor, if acting isn't always the income and the career and the thing that progresses me forward, I I don't care. I want to find myself as a writer, and I'm still going to be there around acting. But all I want to do is just be in this world, and I want the responsibilities. I want the challenges, and I want the lifestyle of what it's like to be a writer or an actor, a performer, an artist. That's all I could ever ask for in this life, and hopefully, God blesses me with those challenges and opportunities ahead of me.
I believe that everything that you need will be provided to you. It's
I
just a
fight
matter
for
of
it. I fight
what you
for it
do.
every day.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, dude, this has been crazy. You've been very, like, first of all, very brave to like be so emotional and open about your whole experience. And I hope that other people who are for sure going through the same thing in all aspects of the education system right now don't feel as alone as you described yourself feeling, because it is happening everywhere. This is not like the first. I know, like, when it's happening to you, it feels like that, but it's like this is happening all over the country at like every major university, basically every day. It's fucked up and it's gross and disgusting. And I hope those motherfuckers, not for revenge, but just for the sake of everybody else who'll be hurt by it, get held accountable at some point. And
I
I
hope
think it's
so.
great for people to come out and speak about it. And I already know you're going to be a great actor, no matter what you do.
Thank you.
Just don't stop doing it. Mwah. I love you.
Thank you very much. I love you too, buddy.
Thank you to Chris, one of my best friends, and I'm really happy that he is doing well given the circumstances and everything that he's been through recently. I hope that you guys, if you happen to be in the Charleston or just somewhere on the East Coast area, go check out one of his plays. I will definitely be linking what I can in the show notes and everything. I want to thank all of our wonderful, amazing supporters on Patreon: Shannon, Ant, Michael, Fred, and Brad, and anybody else. The theme music to this show is made by John of the Shred from the Scythe Dev team. Check out everything they do. In the Keep merchandise is, I think, 25% off for the Christmas season, so go grab some of that. There's some new Stellar Valkyrie shirts with the cool head and everything. Makes for a great gift for your GF or your BF or your TheyF or whatever it is that you have going on over there, or just for yourself. Nothing wrong with treating yourself. That you can find that over at inthecube.com/merch, or it's you can just click on the merch tab. Remember to tell at least one friend that you like this show. Just one person. That's it. I love you. God love you. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. Merry Kwanzaa. Whatever it is. Stay in the keep.